The month and year are halfway over, and that means so is the Kinda Funny membership drive. If you love the nearly 20 live shows we do each week, we'd love for you to throw a Kinda Funny membership our way on patreon.com/kindafunny and youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Thank you, and we'll see all of you for the happy hour this Friday on YouTube, but only members can call to talk to us.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Geostorm podcast, aka The Core in Review. Today, I'm joined by Roger Picorni.
Oh my gosh, Joey Noel introducing me, being a host right now. What an incredible timeline we live in. It's nice to be here.
Did I forget what everybody's like individual little nicknamey things are? Yes, so I'm just gonna go with names this time. Also joined by Nick Scarpino.
Hello, Joey. Thank you for hosting today.
Oh, no problem.
I'm excited for this.
I know, it should be a fun one. It's weird because Tim's always here for this one, and so I feel like it's rare that anybody has to slide into this seat, but I'm happy to do it today.
Tim being gone has uprooted my world, and I don't like it, and that's all I'll say on that.
Oh.
Yeah, you had a double header of Tim being gone and Greg being gone, so you had to be like the real adult.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah,
It was not
not
fun.
preferred. And joining us from sunny Los Angeles, we also have Elise and James Willems. Yay!
Would you say that Nick has been like happier?
I don't know if that's the term I would use necessarily.
No, it is, hey, mom's out of town. We're ordering pizza every single day.
Yeah.
Like, that's just pretty much it. Yeah.
I would say that I've been core to the operations here at Kinda Funny.
Yeah.
There we go.
It is like a 50-50 split of normally Nick's got all the jokes, but sometimes he's like, oh, we got to figure out where this ad copy comes
Yeah,
from.
that was tough. That was a tough.
So it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
That was for the live chat, by the way, who are all making that joke.
Yes, but welcome. When Tim's gone, we get to do kind of whatever we want to do. So
Yes.
this time, Nick managed to convince us all to watch The Core, and maybe we reassess that moving forward.
First off, how dare you? Second off, Roger loved this movie. I have it on good authority. He took 15 pages of notes.
Handwritten.
Handwritten
I
notes.
can't read any of it.
I don't know why. I have this weird proclivity, I guess I should say, to every single time James, Elise, and I do anything, we end up watching the thing they just watched.
Yeah.
So they have to watch it again, which is now just a running joke only in my head.
Oh, just for you?
Yeah, just for me.
I sent Nick a really sad text saying, I know it doesn't exactly fit the bill, but could we watch Apollo 13?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, absolutely not.
Just downloaded the message. Didn't even respond.
Deleted your contact info.
Might have been a better use of our time, but here we are. This is In Review. If you love what we do, please support us with the Kinda Funny membership on Patreon or YouTube to get all of our shows ad-free. Watch us record them live, like Cameron Kennedy and Monkashona. And you can also get a daily exclusive show, Greg Way, the multimedia experience. You can also get In Review for free with ads on YouTube and podcast services around the globe. Thank you so much to our podcast producers, Carl Jacobs, Nathan Lamoth, Alex J. Sandoval, James Hastings, Casey Andrew. And today we are brought to you by Hymns and Aura Frames, but we're going to talk about that later. This week, Nick convinced us to watch The Core.
The Core.
I believe there was a vote. Wasn't there a vote?
There was.
Yes, there was.
Was there a vote?
It was more like a
There was a
Sophie's
vote.
choice.
I feel like we got strong-armed a little bit into watching The Core.
You guys could have watched The Day After Tomorrow.
We could have.
We could have watched that.
See,
I think
I don't have any connection to these. I just know that the Day After Tomorrow was on FX a lot, so I
Okay.
caught parts of it, and it seemed too serious.
It is
right? It
very
seemed like a real
serious.
movie.
It's of the same ilk as The Core,
Okay.
but it's not. The
I don't know
Core
if I would
definitely
say
has
that.
more of a. It's a little bit more cheesy, I would say. I think it's not tongue in cheek, but I think The Core has that sort of like, what other ridiculous thing can we throw at these people? Whereas The Day After Tomorrow is slightly more grounded, I would say.
I think it's
Slightly.
better written, probably.
That's not what we're looking for.
Well, it dips more into like survival.
Yeah.
The Day After Tomorrow. The Core is more about like beat, raise the tensions, have these this ridiculous outlandish scenario that it doesn't make. There's no science behind this whatsoever. In fact, like I was trying to look up trivia for you, but 90% of the trivia is like
The science
none of
is
this could
wrong.
happen.
This
So much
does not
so
check out.
that they couldn't even think of a fun name for the ore they use in this. They just call it unobtainium, which is awesome.
A couple. I want to say a couple things real
Yes.
quick because I want to put the community to work.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember that Hilary Swank did some sort of late night interview as this movie was coming out, and they asked her about it, and she said the reason she took this project on is because it puts the science back in science fiction.
Oh my gosh.
It's a core memory in my brain, but I can't find it online. I tried to find it to send it to you guys. I can't find it anywhere. If someone can find that clip and send it to me, I will be eternally grateful because it's made so much funnier when you think about the fact that this movie is non-scientific at all.
Counter to that, the IMDb has a piece of trivia that the University of British Columbia, in a science class there, they would use the core as an example of wrong science.
Yeah.
Just misinformation.
I want to say, just to back up James's point of Hilary Swank saying she did it because it puts the science back in science fiction. Aaron Eckhart apparently did this movie because after 9/11, he was unsure of what the world was going to be. So he just wanted a big fat paycheck.
He was like, I will take the money.
And you can tell because I don't even think he got a haircut for this movie.
Cameron Kennedy
That's not on
seems like
him.
he's on it for you, James. Hopefully we will have a link for you soon.
Right.
But let's get into it. The Core, released March 28th, 2003.
2003.
It's directed by John Amiel, an English director who's worked in film and television, both in the UK and the US. He has a BAFTA and directed films such as Summersby, Copycat, Entrapment, and Creation. Are any of those familiar to any of you?
Catherine Zeta-Jones, Sean
Entrapment.
Connery.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the only one that like
Copycat
vaguely
also.
rang a bell, but
Copycat's an interesting thriller. I think if memory serves correctly, it's Harry Connick Jr. and Sigourney Weaver, and she plays she has agoraphobia where she can't leave her house, but she's
Oh,
also like a
interesting.
professor that got attacked by she got attacked by a serial killer, lived, and then there's a copycat out there, but she can't leave her house.
well, that sounds kind
So
of
it's an interesting setup. And Sigourney Weaver, obviously a great actor.
Yeah,
Bam.
I ain't got any agoraphobia. I'll tell you that much.
Okay,
Steve
so
Joey.
What the audience doesn't know is we talked about Sigourney Weaver and aliens for a good chunk of time before we started this podcast.
to the point where we
Absolutely.
could just segue to our another Alien Romulus review with them and probably get more views on this video.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the Core began development in the late 90s and was one of several Journey to the Center of the Earth inspired projects. Didn't realize that had enough weight to support multiple projects for that. But I guess we have Armageddon, Deep Impact. I guess not really Journey to the Center of the Earth, but adjacent
Well,
because of stuff. Yes.
It's interesting because this whole movie, as I'm watching it, was like, we have Armageddon and Deep Impact, we have Volcano, we have Dante's Peak, we have all these ones that
Twin
are
films.
there's
I
these
love
twin
it.
film concepts, but there's always one that's like way more subdued or mundane compared to the other. Like
and
you could
so much
choose either,
later.
or whatever. But the Core feels like it's the mundane version of another twin film that never came out.
We didn't get a fun
It's
version of the
because-
Core.
It's because the
Yeah.
early screeners came in and everyone was like, "Oh my god, that movie's so good. We can't possibly make a movie that's
Right.
better." So they just didn't bother making a spiritual successor to Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Oh my gosh. The movie was written by Cooper Lane and John Rogers, who have a different but interesting backstories. So Cooper Lane has written 2 films.
Oh.
Not a really bustling career. It was
Okay.
this and The Fog, which is another not great horror.
The Fog was
adjacent
the
movie.
Tom Welling movie, I want to say,
Yes.
the remake of the old Jamie Lee Curtis
Correct.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I
and
thought
then
that was The Happening.
no,
The
that's the one
Happening
with
is with Mark
Wahlberg.
Wahlberg, where he's like, "Oh my god, have you seen it?"
Oh, I was mixing up those two the
So I was
entire
about to
time.
spoil
Every
it
time
for
I
you
was
right
saying
now.
that I wanted to watch The Happening, I was thinking about that movie.
You want to watch The Fog?
I thought that's what that was.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
The Happening
there's
is a movie
wildly
where
different.
Mark Wahlberg roams around for 2 hours, just utterly confused.
Oh.
I'm sorry, that's every Mark Wahlberg movie.
Hard to say.
Wow, he would have beat 9/11.
So Cooper Lane, not really setting a great foundation for us. John Rogers, the other writer of this, a wild IMDb, Catwoman, Transformers.
Perfect.
Uh,
Perfect movies.
What else did we get? I don't know where it all went. Oh, there it is. Swordfish, The Country Bears, Runaway Jury. No, this is a different person. I lied. Sorry, I got my music and my person. But Catwoman, Transformers, and Marry Me with J-Lo and Owen Wilson in this screenplay.
I could do a Marry Me in review right now. Like I've written an entire script about that
What the
movie.
hell is Marry Me?
Aw,
It
dude.
came out
It's
a
so
couple
bad.
years ago, and it's like this.
Marry me,
Marry me. See?
Oh,
Say yes, say
yes. This is the one where instead of just telling her fiance she doesn't want to marry him, she decides to marry Owen Wilson instead, who's like a
Yeah.
random person taking his
Correct.
daughter to a concert.
Yeah.
I did watch this piece of shit.
Ka-chow, Jennifer. Ka-chow. We're married now.
So that's the team that we had writing this, which I feel
Great.
provides like a lot of context for maybe how we ended up here.
That's great. I love
To
that.
speak to context here for a second, Joey, I think we also need to acknowledge that this movie is very much a product of early 2000s culture in every sense. We're in a
Bootcut jeans.
bootcut jeans. Aaron Eckhart wears a denim shirt for the whole movie, like that he would get at H&M. Like one of the things that bothered me the most watching this movie was that like they're barely in. You want them to be in some kind of space suit or something. You know they're
Yeah.
going to the core of the earth, but like
Yeah.
then they're just in regular clothes for the whole thing. Like what is that? But it was the early 2000s, and that's how we had to dress. And it just everything about it feels of the era. James,
It
you
does.
pointed out too. It's like in a post-Armageddon era. So
Yeah,
it's
it's like
not
swordfish adjacent.
Yes.
It was just it's a feeling that you can't quite. You know it if you lived it.
100%.
You know.
And even being in a post 9/11 era too, I feel like they were originally, I mean, this is like kind of getting ahead of it, but the shuttle landing that happens in the LA River was originally supposed to be at LAX, but because of 9/11 stuff, they nixed it and had to come up with like a different thing. So all these different things that could have played out differently.
But the intro of the
Wait.
movie is in New York, right?
It's everywhere, but yes, I think it's
Generic.
New York. No, Chicago, I think. I want to say
Oh.
Chicago.
Okay.
I have it here
It's
in my
that-
notes.
this-
University of
can I-
Chicago is where it
Never
starts.
mind.
I know
All
we're
right.
going to get into it
No,
soon,
Boston,
but
Boston,
this
Boston.
movie has the lamest cold open maybe of any of these movies. It's the weakest opening to a movie I think I've ever seen in my whole life. And I can't wait for us to talk about it in the plot because I can think of no better way to completely remove the excitement for a journey to the center of the earth than with the opening sequence in this movie.
Yes.
I agree.
Boggles my mind.
This has a runtime of 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh,
and
just a
boy, does it
brisk.
feel
Flies by.
twice as
Nice.
long as that.
Flies by.
We had a group chat maybe about all of this, and all I remember is it took the Williamses like 5 days to get through this movie.
Yeah.
And as someone
Because
who
they
had to
wanted
watch
to
it all
savor
at once
it.
this morning, I should have watched it over 5 days.
I watched it. So I watched it cover to cover yesterday.
Cover
Enjoyed
to
the hell out of it. Enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, Andy
the middle
was
of
just
the
like, "Are
office."
you watching the core?"
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Andy took a picture of me. He got
He
the bald
did.
spot in the back of my head.
The music for this is by Christopher Young. This is one that like really blew me out because I was like, I don't really know who Christopher Young is. Started going through his filmography. Swordfish, The Country Bears, Runaway Jury, The Grudge, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man 3,
I was gonna say,
and my
I
personal
bet he
favorite,
did a
Drag Me to
Spider-Man
Hell,
movie.
which I just rewatched, and it's
What was the
still
last one?
Drag Me to Hell.
Oh.
Sam Raimi
yeah.
movie.
Great
Awesome.
Excellent.
Mhm.
The film grossed $31.1 million in
Solid.
theaters and another $43 million overseas for a worldwide gross of $74.1 million against a production budget of, do we have any guesses?
Oh, I'm gonna guess. I'd guess 60 million.
I don't
Roger,
know.
what do you got?
I mean, this is not for inflation, right? I don't know how much movies were made for back then,
It
right?
was 22 years ago, 23 years ago.
Yeah, so I would say 80.
James and Elise?
I've seen it, so I'll
Okay.
pass.
I've seen it as
Okay, it is $85 million. Pretty close.
Money well
Thank you.
spent.
Oh, is it?
This is definitely
When you
one of those movies.
When you
that-
see those little miniature tin cars going off the Golden Gate Bridge,
Yeah.
that's where you're like,
They killed it.
Nailed
Perfect.
it.
Which
A perfect use.
It's baffling, and I'm sorry because I know we're going to talk about it more. But the actual ship is the most boring ship I've
Oh.
ever. The inside of it
thoughts.
is
Bad
just
thoughts.
without any personality or anything distinctive. Half of it's out of focus behind them anyway. It's what did they spend this money on? It's so boring.
I've thought.
Elise, I want to hear from you first since you're already a little bit on a roll. Tell me what you thought about the core.
So yeah, I was ranting to James about the ship, probably on watch 4, maybe. I was ranting. Aaron Eckhart and what's her name?
Hillary
Hillary
Swank.
Swank.
We're having I don't know their names. I never bothered to take the time to learn
No.
the characters' names.
Bex? or whatever.
But they're having a conversation in the ship, and I'm just thinking, I've seen Alien Romulus, which has incredible design, and now I'm watching them in the middle. Like, it could have been a conference room that, like, we're making a sketch at Funhouse, and we, do some light art department to make it look like a ship. Put up a poster that looks like a module. Like, it's like
Some
I don't even know what
tubing that you found in the garage.
It looked like there was a blow dryer hanging on the wall behind them. I didn't know what was going on. This movie, I think that probably everybody put their heart and soul into working on it and was really, really dedicated and did their best job with everything they had. But it all came together in the most vanilla, blah, boring, like culmination. Like I said, Aaron Eckhart is wearing a denim shirt from H&M for the whole movie, and it just took me out of it the whole time because I'm like, he's going to the center of the earth,
and that's the best thing he's got.
Yeah, they sacrifice every person of color. They and everyone's just so willing to like offer up their lives to preserve Aaron Eckhart.
For the world. They're saving the world, and Josh has a great number of highlights in his hair. Do you think those things fucking happen like that? That takes a couple hours in a salon chair to get that blonde wig on.
Nick Scarpino, why don't you tell us about this?
Unless
of
course. One more thing. The time is a construct in this movie because I have no idea how it's passing.
It tells you every single time it pops at the bottom of the screen, and it tells you how much time has passed, regardless of what they're up to.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Bake it away,
you're
Tim.
Totally fine.
Nick, oh my God, I called Tim.
too late.
I called
The
Nick
shot's
Tim
on
just
me.
Tim,
now.
wherever you are,
Sorry.
let's get Tim on the horn.
I told Tim to watch. We'll tell him to watch it on the plane right home. We can give an addendum
I'm
to this.
sorry. I'm
No, it's
flushed.
okay.
I'm
How dare you.
upset.
It's the least you can do
And-
for me making you watch one of my favorite disaster movies
Jesus Christ.
ever made. I love this movie. I love how bad it is. It's just like the epitome of schlock and with a little bit of camp and way too much artificial tension and two characters, a protagonist, a male lead and a female lead that have zero fucking chemistry, should not have any sort of tension whatsoever. It is such an example of a good bad movie from 2003. And I saw another piece of trivia on here that kind of nailed it. Like Roger Ebert loved this movie. He said it was a guilty pleasure film, and he could not. He's like, I cannot in good conscience recommend this for anyone, but for some reason it hits for him, and that is the same for me. I love how stupid the concept is. I love how artificial the tension is that they try to build. I love that, for context, for a normal film like Fury Road or Furiosa, I take 4 pages of notes. This I have 5 pages of notes because they beat you over the head with the terrible science of this movie. At one point, this is how bad this film is. The science is. At one point, there's a piece of trivia where he blowtorches a peach, but for some reason they couldn't get a peach that worked, so they painted an apple.
Well, I saw, Nick, that they did have peaches, but no one liked how the peaches looked.
Yeah, so they painted an apple.
poured out an apple.
Yeah. It is one of those, I think, very nostalgic films for me. It's one of those films that's like, it's so cheap to license that it was always on in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And so I've watched it a ton of times. And I'm a big fan of Aaron Eckhart. I like Hilary Swank. I like these two. I like Delroy Lindo. I like not John Turturro, Stanley Tucci.
Yeah.
The cast, even the French guy who's the bad guy in Bad Boys who's in this.
Oh,
which is great. I'm like, this whole, God, the dad from Step Brothers is it, it's got this
This
great
is one
cast.
of those, it's that guy movies.
Alfred Woodard's in it.
Yeah.
All of these people are great actors, good enough actors. And it's just hilarious that they're all in this one terrible film. And it's just, to me, I don't know. I just turn my brain off and I watch this dumb suspension of disbelief where they make this giant ship that, let's be honest, kind of looks like a cat turd. That literally drops into a toilet bowl that is the ocean. And then they got to come up with a way well, how do we get to the Earth's core? Okay, we got to come up with a laser that can cut through. That would be the MacGuffin of like a Mission Impossible movie right there.
Yes.
Okay, well, what about the heat? Well, we got to come up with this molecule that can withstand pressure and heat. As more goes, it gets stronger. That's a MacGuffin for a fucking superhero movie right there. All of these stupid things mount up to the point your brain just goes it just goes static. You just go, fuck it. I'll watch Stanley Tucci in this god awful hairpiece that he's got, wax
love it.
poetic with
I
a
love
cigarette, and that last scene with him is always my favorite too. He's like, "What the fuck am I doing?"
That's good.
And it just blows up. That is that's a movie. I love this movie.
Nick, who do you think said hairpiece? Do you think it was the hair and makeup? Do you think it was Stanley Tucci? Do you think it was the director? like it was in the script? Like, who do you think said like this character has hair?
Elise, I'm going to answer your question with a question. Do you honestly think the Tooch would let anyone answer that question for him?
That's a great question.
I would like to answer that. I would like to answer that question with a statement,
Yeah.
which is phrased in the form of a question.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make sense for the character that he would be so egotistical that he would wear a hairpiece?
So vain.
I mean, that's my
Right.
guess is why the
Beautiful.
Tooch, when the Tooch came on set, he was
I
like, I
think-
need a big old hairpiece.
I think in the canon of this film, it is a hairpiece.
That's
character is wearing.
kind of genius. I never thought about that. I
Yeah,
actually
genius.
haven't thought too much about Stanley Tucci's portrayal of Dr. Zimski in this, but I'll watch it again tonight
Remember
and
the
I'll let
name.
you know.
Oh,
That's crazy.
perfect. James, I want to hear about you and what you thought about this.
So I have, like Nick, seen The Core more times than I can count. This
On
viewing,
purpose?
no. So that's a great point.
It's on TV.
This is a movie designed for syndication. You're
Yeah.
not, unlike Nick, you're not supposed to watch it cover to cover. You're supposed to tune in either as they're just reaching the core, on their way out, or maybe that point where they break into the pocket that has little crystals. That's probably where you're supposed
That's
to
so
start
right.
the
This is
movie.
definitely a movie you never see the beginning to.
You're not supposed
Like you
to.
see it, you're like, is this a deleted scene?
When
Yeah.
you watch the whole movie and you're like, dude, I thought that was 3 different movies.
Yeah. Well,
And you never
because
see it coming.
because we were talking about the twin films and they're just sitting here thinking about it, I was like, oh my god, this is its own twin film. it's like a conjoined twin film.
Yeah.
Because it has a scene from a shitty, boring science movie like Deep Impact, and then it'll have a scene from a completely ridiculous, over-the-top Armageddon. And they keep flip-flopping back and forth. It makes it a very hard watch. I would say the last third of the movie is the part that everyone should watch, because that's when it's just incredible, mind-numbing, it's losing its mind, it's killing off everyone, and they can't accomplish a single task without sacrificing a life. There's a
Constant.
blood toll that must be paid for every.
And they're not solving any problems with any inventive solutions. It's just send this person out
Yeah.
into danger.
They had no idea what they were getting. The big thing is they had no idea what they were getting into.
No.
And but that's also kind of what makes it enjoyable for me. So I didn't hate it. It took us 5 viewings. We found it for free on Pluto TV, but it came with ads that were I want to say 10 times the volume level of the film itself. So
Good.
every single time
Wakes
an
you up.
ad came on, it would shock us awake. And since we don't sign in to Pluto TV because it's not required, there's a point where we moved to a different TV to start watching there, and the movie started over again. And my heart I panicked. I really panicked for a second.
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Nick Scarpino comes to you and he says, James, I need you to watch The Core again. What do you say?
I say, well, Nick comes to me with anything, I say yes.
I,
He doesn't need
Exactly,
to ask. He doesn't
exactly.
need to ask.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
So
it.
all that being said, this movie is terrible. It's terrible. But I kind of enjoy it, there's a hacker in it. There's a hacker.
There
in
is a hacker.
It's not just a
it's like
hacker. It's
the
the
rat.
kid from Road Trip.
DJ Qualls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
It's,
like-
it's just and there's no reason you could have cut it all out. You could have cut it all out, and
All
then I
of it.
can't
He
wait
hacked
for us
the
to talk
planet.
about the plot because I really want to rip. When we do the plot, can I do the first scene?
You can do the whole plot if you want. I'm gonna go with you guys. I'm gonna give everyone a choice when we get to the plot,
Okay.
which
Okay.
is: do we want to go granular with it, or do we want to kind of skip through it? Because I
think
I literally
we
have
torpedo
beat for
through.
beat. Okay, we'll torpedo through it. We'll go through it.
The last thing I want to say is that, Elise, you're right. The ship does look stupid because they have a lot of practical, but then they're also we can use computers to make things. And you can
worst.
tell the difference. It's like night and day. That being said, if Lego came out and they said we're releasing a Core Special Edition Virgil that's going to be that you can build yourself, I would have bought it yesterday. That is for sure.
Oh my god, me too.
my
I want it to be the size of this desk that we're sitting at right now.
Roger, give it to me. What'd you think?
I hated this movie, man. I'm so fucking mad at Nick. I'm so mad at Nick that he made me do this. This is an awful disaster movie. This is not a good disaster. The disasters
you.
in this movie, the only good part is the Rome scene, right? Is that Rome?
Yeah, it was
the
Rome.
Coliseum.
Where the
Okay,
Coliseum
Is that the one with the
was.
birds?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the Coliseum fucking
It's
explodes
static.
and everything. Yeah,
No, it's static, yeah.
yeah, that's fun. That
it.
was the only good part, though. The entire movie is just oh, the concept is great. right? Like we could just do whatever the fuck we want, right? Because it's like, it's magnets. Who cares? We don't know. Pacemakers. I don't know. Fucking explosions.
It's science.
And then they just they speed through all of the actual interesting things with the characters, and then we're 45 minutes in, and then we go inside the inside hell that is essentially like the Spawn movie from back in the day. It just looks like shit. It's awful. It's like the CGI is a disaster. That's the disaster of this movie. Is the CGI, and I hate looking at it. I don't understand why the first 45 minutes weren't the entire movie, and the last 20 minutes was the core, because the core is not interesting. There's no dinosaurs. I was waiting for the dinosaurs. I was waiting for something fun to happen. Then we get to the core and we're just dropping bombs.
That's in the core too.
Fuck. I'm mad. I'm just mad about this movie. I hate that we did this, but I'm here to talk
Don't
about
forget though, at some point though, there's a ray of sun that bursts through the ozone layer that destroys the Golden Gate Bridge, right?
Shit, that is true.
I-
That is
And
true.
half of San Francisco.
I just want to say something, and Roger, this may upset you further, and I apologize. Something that I noticed on this viewing, don't actually reach the core.
Oh, fuck.
the outer
They're
core.
explaining the structure
Yeah.
of, they say the core is here, and we only got to about here.
Well, I mean,
So
they got
in
to
the
where
film,
they
the
needed
core-
to go.
They never actually reached the core.
And remember, they're in street clothes the whole
It's
time.
street clothes the whole time.
How many watches did it take you to realize this, James?
I mean, probably 10, 15 watches of this movie.
Now-
Because you never watch the whole thing. And when you watch the
Yeah.
whole thing, you're like, wait a minute. He's explaining how the earth is made up. There's mantle, and then there's this, and then there's that. And then he goes, and we'll get to here. And I go, what's that thing in the center? That's the core.
Well, but they say in the center, and to be fair, they do say that the center of the Earth is a solid iron the size of Mars or something like that. So they get to the outer core, which is the lava flow that they had to restart with
They get in
5
there.
nuclear bombs.
Take the premise of the movies. We need to get inside the core.
Fair enough. Hey, look,
in.
The
I'm
inner
not
core doesn't
defending the
roll
movie.
off
I'm
the
just
tongue
saying.
as well,
I'm
you
just
know?
James. I'm just saving you from the YouTube comments.
It's a
that are gonna tear
core.
you apart.
Oh my
It's a
God.
part of the
Let
core.
them
Specifics
comfort.
of that.
I should have
All
watched
three
this
people are
like they
watching
did.
this
I
review.
should have watched
At
it
least,
multiple
like-
days through
I
Pluto
agree.
TV, because I saw the Pluto TV, James and Elise, and I was thinking about it. I was like, I love Pluto TV. I love these ads. I love hanging
know you
out.
do,
but it's
bud.
like, do I want to do this for 4.5 hours?
I'm the
volume.
opposite. I buy this movie on Amazon every time I have to watch it. I just log
Every
into a new account, log into a new account, and buy it. I shit you not.
SD. SD.
I've probably rented this movie enough to have bought it at this point.
Oh.
Because my
you don't
wife.
have to rent it that many times. It's like maybe 3 or 4.
I mean, no, because I think it's like one of those bargain. Like it says $3.99 with a line
99
through it,
cents.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
it's like 90. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Which makes it even funnier that you guys watch it on Pluto TV. Like it
They
wasn't like
just watched it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
somewhere
you
else. I feel bad. I'll Venmo you guys the $2.99 for that.
You can rent it right now for 99 cents.
Told you. I did it yesterday.
It's on
2 days
sale,
ago.
Ultra HD for 12
See,
bucks.
We should have rented it.
That's because
This
they saw
is-
me get it and they were like, "Oh, this is gonna start it."
I was trying to give you an out, being like, oh, it's like a $3 or $4 rental. You only would have had to rent it 4 times in order to have to buy it. But that means that you've rented it like 12 times.
At one point, my wife was like, "What's we were going through some schlocky like disaster
Credit
movie
card
like,"
statement just unfurls.
and she was
Just
like, "Do you
Biodome
want?"
in the core.
Well, I think it was like she's like, "Do you want to watch the core?" Because it was on like this might have been when we had cable, and it was like on AMC, and I was like, "Oh, if we're gonna watch the core, we're gonna give those fine men and women who made this movie some dollars. We're gonna rent this thing on Amazon for 99 cents."
Mhm.
Because you also don't. I mean, I personally, I couldn't get through this movie if I had to watch it with ads. The first ad break, I'm like, "Oh, that's it for me."
I feel like that should be an indicator or something, but I'm not going to say that out loud.
Joey, what did you think about this movie?
I'm way closer to Roger and Elise than James and Nick. This is my first time watching the core. This movie feels so long. It feels like I watched it over 4 hours. The stakes in this movie have like no weight to them whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand why there's nothing really like tethering them to wanting to save Earth. I feel like Armageddon and all of these other disaster movies have all these things that like make them want to save their families and Earth and all these
Well,
things.
the French guy had a family that he reveals right before he dies.
In
Don't forget
a
about that.
notebook.
It was a big
Sorry,
deal for
how
him.
could I forget?
You got to think in the 5-hour cut, we see that family.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. This isn't IMDb trivia, but if you told me that everybody in this movie hated each other, I would 1000% buy it because there's negative amounts of chemistry between every single possible pairing in this movie.
Yeah.
The pacing is so wild. The fact that we're like on the mission like 50 minutes into this movie.
Oh yeah.
incredible. And I do feel like I should nominate this to be the first crossover for the disaster cast, being a disaster movie and a disaster of a movie.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
I like that.
Ooh, okay.
Bars.
That's kind of how I feel about it.
Good.
That's great. I love that.
Well, it seems like it would be time to get into the plot. But first, it's time to hear from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Hims. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom. Hims has treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments such as chewable hard mints, proven treatments like Viagra and Cialis, or their generics for up to 95% cheaper. No insurance is needed. The process is simple and 100% online. No uncomfortable in-person visits necessary. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/kindafunny. That's HIMS.com/kindafunny for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims.com/kindafunny. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions, details, and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. This episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. Here's the thing about birthdays, they happen all year, which means there's probably someone you should be buying a gift for right now. Give them something really special with Aura Digital Frames. Aura Frames are easy to set up, update, and enjoy. Plus, Aura Frames can be preloaded with photos and gift messages, so whether you're giving the frame to your sister, grandma, or your mother-in-law, you can make sure that the gift is personalized just for them. Recently, I gave my partner Leanza an Aura digital frame as a gift for our 6th anniversary, and we both adore it. We love being reminded of some of our most special moments, and it always starts some of the best journeys down memory lane. Right now, Aura is having their very first Friends and Family sale, and we've got an exclusive offer just for our listeners. For a limited time, you can get $35 off their best-selling frame by visiting auraframes.com and using promo code KINDAFUNNY. That's AURA frames.com, promo code KINDAFUNNY. This is the best offer of the season, so don't miss out. Terms and conditions apply.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to cut to the core of it. Welcome to the core, everyone. Unobtainium. I will buy anyone a Starbucks coffee if they can name the other movie that used the word unobtainium
Avatar.
in it. There you go. Gosh darn it. All right.
Fuck,
Did
I
you
wanted
know
this.
that too?
I wanted the Starbucks.
I'll buy
I
you
wrote
a
in my
coffee
notes.
anyway because
Wrote in
James
my notes.
lives in a better
And
city.
I was just going to say something real quick. Unobtainium is a scientific term used to qualify certain chemicals, materials, or metals that are yet to be scientifically qualified. It's like a branching term. I had to discover this when people were knocking on Avatar for it. And I was like, so it's not as stupid. The name is scientific.
It's like a catch-all term.
It's exactly, pretty much for like a theoretical material.
It is like cool sounding in theory.
It just always sort of rang out to me as, well, first off, that kind of puts it more in context, which makes me like it less. That's a real side. Because then I'm like, why don't you just come up with adamantium, right? That's such a cool name.
Oh, yeah.
That's like, we know it. We like, if we know it, we know what it is. It's so specific to Wolverine and to the X-Men and to the Marvel universe. Unobtainium is just a great way of being like, we couldn't come up with something else.
Yeah.
We just didn't think about it.
Generic.
Also, Delroy Lindo's like, I came up with an awesome term for this metal.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, you didn't.
Yeah, you're right.
Science did.
You got taught that in grad
Science
school.
did.
Well,
Yeah.
they put the science in science fiction, so that's important.
That's-
I mean,
Yeah.
they sure did. And
Very
they put the
important.
money in Aaron Eckhart's wallet. Look, at time for Dave. Time for Dave to make some billions of to make $200 million. And then his heart stops because he's had the Green World Day in Boston, Massachusetts. And I'll tell you what, you want to know where the money went from this? It went to the second unit, going to Boston, and then Chicago, and then Los Angeles. And they go everywhere in this film. That's a sign of a good worldwide disaster movie, is that we see every major city. And boy, oh boy, do we see them in this
45
ad
minutes.
nauseum. In a lot of detail. Josh is over at this. We got to talk about this because James, you wanted to
James
walk
wanted
us
to
through the
intro
first couple
this.
scenes of this, right?
Yes. So the opening of this disaster film at which the entire world's at stake, right? So much so that a group of scientists or whatever they are need to travel in a tube-like machine to the center
You can call it the
or
cat
near
poop.
center of the Earth, right?
The dirt cheetah.
And they decide, you think about other disaster films, you see like huge asteroids crashing into Earth or all the things causing kinds of stuff. This is a lame dude walks into a meeting and then kind of gets sweaty and collapses.
Yeah.
That's the opening to this film. And then you go, 10 people's pacemakers stopped working. And I'm like, that is such a wet fart of an opening. And then you're like, well, maybe it'll get more exciting. And as Roger indicated, it doesn't.
No.
It really doesn't. The things that they use to symbolize the world-ending threat in this film are the lamest, stupidest examples I could ever think for a disaster movie.
The other thing that's so confusing to me about this opening is, do that many people have pacemakers?
That's what I was
like
gonna
in a
ask.
square block.
I mean, in Boston, yeah, because they're drinking too much in that goddamn
Oh,
city.
yeah.
I get it, because they're so angry too.
Yeah, they get so
Gets
angry.
the blood pressure up.
Absolutely.
I'm just like, you have people passing out left and right.
Everybody.
And I just didn't know that pacemakers were like that common in a variety. I also think of people being older, and it was like a wide variety of ages.
Hey, they don't discriminate in the core.
It's
I
true.
guess it's
Don't get
true.
it.
The core is
Science
all-inclusive.
fiction.
I will say, just as a counterpoint to that, I'm just a sucker for the stupid buildup of these movies. I like the mystery of like why this is happening. And we didn't watch Day After Tomorrow, but like Dennis Quaid's character in that is the one that figures it out, and he's got to like. They have these things that are happening. You're like, wait a minute, a bird froze at 2,000 feet or whatever. So to me, I don't mind the slow buildup. I don't need an asteroid strike like we get in Armageddon. I like that it's like a small elevated thing, and then as the viewer, you go, okay, well, maybe it's not a big deal. Like we have that moment with Richard Jenkins a little bit later where he comes in. We'll skip around here a little bit. He collects Josh and Serge, and they go in and they see all the bodies, and they go, it was probably this thing. And he goes, cool, that's all I needed to know. He like the audience goes, I don't want to deal with this. I'm happy you gave me the answer I want. I'm going to walk away with it. But of course,
Somebody else's problem now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As long as it isn't a threat on America, I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
we
it's
don't
not a
care.
weapon. Of course, we're gonna learn that Project Destiny is a weapon later, which is a cool name for a fucking seismic weapon. You guys are all crazy. This movie rocks. From there, we cut over to we meet Josh, who is Aaron Eckhart, who just has that beautiful mop of blonde hair that
God.
he's had for his whole
Awful.
life.
Can we just talk in the beginning right now? Like, Aaron Eckhart is so miscast in this movie. Like, he's trying to do the neurotic genius or whatever, like a Jesse Eisenberg type
Yeah.
deal, and just it is not that. And he's not. I was gonna say he didn't eat, but like I don't know why I'm saying that out loud to like this class of people.
I guess I'm confused on his casting because I've never really thought of him as like the guy, like
Yeah.
leading man status. Am I
Mhm.
off base on that too? Does
I'd
anybody
have
have
to
more
look at the
knowledge on
movies
that?
that ran. I'm not really up on my Eckhart history.
Thank you for smoking.
He did do
you.
that.
Thank you for
Smoking
smoking.
was
It's great.
When
Yeah.
was that though?
That was I think maybe either right before or right after The Dark Knight.
2000.
Yeah,
was that 2004 or 2005? Thank you for smoking.
So let's take a look.
2005.
Yeah, 2005.
Dark Knight 2008.
One of Sam Elliott's best roles.
That was a good role.
He's the Marlboro Man in that. He's great.
Yeah, I don't think he was that big of a deal back then. But again, I don't know that
He
they were.
looks like a leading man. Like I think
he's got the
he
chin.
would do a good job in this. I just don't think like his character is right for him. Right? Like I don't like the professor element of it just doesn't work for me for him.
Makes you wonder who passed on this part.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Well,
This
it
film was
certainly
built around him. And his strengths.
He was the core
and
of the movie.
certainly
I
wasn't.
think he was the first one to sign on, and then Hillary Swank like a month later.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, because after we have this amazing scene with Richard Jenkins, where he's like, everything's going to be okay. It's not a weapon. And Josh is like, oh my God, I think something's happening. He goes back to his grad school. He's like, some shit's going down. Everyone, I'll sign your thesis blindfolded if you run all these
Just
cool
sick.
computer models for me. And I was like, that's awesome, right? And then we go. Now, let me ask you this, Elise. When you first watched this movie, did you think that a movie about going to the core of the earth was going to go to space? Because that's where we go
No.
next.
Fucking got
But-
you.
I guess like it's two extremes, right?
Yeah. Well, they often say in order to explore the core, you have to first explore the vacuum of space, the cold, hard vacuum of space. We go out, of course. We have the shuttle, and it's you look at Bruce Greenwood. Let's talk about his voice for a second. He could just talk to me and tell me that I'm not ready, and I would believe him. I'm just not ready. He's like, you're not ready to be a leader, Bex. You're not ready to be a leader. And then, of course, they're thrown off course, and they've got 30 seconds to land this fucking plane. And NASA's like, we're like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. They're off course. We don't know why. And she's like, I got a solution for
Those
you.
things got protractors and
she's doing math. She's doing math on her trapper keeper, and meanwhile, Bruce Greenwood's like, you're not ready, Beck, to solve it. And then finally, he's like, all right, well, I'm out of ideas. Where do you want to land this? And she says, the L.A. River, and I'm a sucker for this ever since Grease. L.A. River, so cool. They landed there.
Not Terminator 2.
I saw Grease first, probably. Of course, then they go, well, she's in trouble, right? You guys are in trouble.
Yeah.
To which anyone watching this movie would be like, why? You saved the space shuttle. You didn't kill anyone. Everyone's alive. This should get you a literal, I don't know what the Medal of Honor equivalent is. What do they give it to? Like I guess you would get the Medal of Honor because you're in some sort of service, right? I don't know if NASA's.
Air Force.
Yeah, she's in the Air Force, right? So she would get the Medal of Honor.
Space Force.
I was like, she's like, I'm really worried about my career. And then we have the scene later with Richard Jenkins where he's like, well, you screwed up. And she's like, no, clearly I did it. Like everyone in NASA's like, we don't know why this happened. It's not your fault. And she solved it, of course, later in line. She ends up
when
doing that.
they're landing this thing in the river, it is like the definition of the thing that you see later on in movies where it's like it's all green screen and the actors don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Like it does not match what is happening outside. Like things are freaking out, explosions. They're about to land on this thing and it's just like like they have a little bit of bumpiness on the road. It's like this is I don't know what's happening.
I did find in my search for put the science back in science fiction a BTS where Hilary Swank is talking about how difficult it is to stare at nothing and pretend that she sees a heartbeat stop. I knew it. She's explaining to the camera. She's like, yeah, there's like nothing there. Yeah. I have to pretend that I see this and then feel something, and I'm like, that's called acting, Hillary.
That's your whole job.
I mean, this is this is 2003, right? So like CGI and evereverying is on the rise.
In full effect. Yeah, she
this is
known.
the first time that a lot of actors are seeing this and feeling
But you have to understand, Hilary Swank was largely, well, I guess, might be fair to say, but she was a pretty well-respected actor. I mean, she did Boys Don't Cry. She later did that. She got an Academy Award for $1 Million Baby. So this is literally just a paycheck for her. So you have to imagine she was on fucking Vicodin half the time she's doing this movie, just trying to get through this goddamn project, right?
Just trying to finish it up.
Just a little oxy to get me through the day. We're gonna skip around here a little bit. From here, he goes over to Zimski, where he meets Stanley the Tucci.
I love him in this.
I love it. Everything.
That's true. I just love Stanley Tucci.
See, the problem with this is the reason why Roger didn't like this movie is because we didn't give him the required reading of going home and watching The Devil Wears Prada.
It is tragic that Roger's never seen it.
No, I haven't.
And I feel like you might need to like go home and watch it tonight.
Yeah, I want to watch that and Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen.
Why do you want to watch that?
I don't know. Those are the two movies that are connected in my head.
I see the connection. I think you can skip the latter for sure.
I want to watch that one first.
Okay.
I've never seen Devil's Prada either, Roger. So
Ooh,
it's good. It's one of Anne Hathaway's best.
I mean,
it is
they're making a
legitimately
sequel
really good.
in review.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's tell Tim to extend his honeymoon for another week. And we'll add that to the Geostorm podcast.
I'll go on record as saying it might be one of Meryl Streep's best roles. Also,
I think
she's fantastic.
yeah,
she's wonderful in that movie. And
10 out of 10.
I say that because she's always every fucking film she does. But this is the one that I always go back to. Like, did she knock that out of the park? Is that Anna Wintour? Anyway,
so do you have a touchstone for Stanley Tucci at all then, or no?
Hunger Games. I've seen him in a bunch of. I mean, Marvel. He was in the Marvel stuff. Funny story. I told both of them this already, but I was watching this with my partner Leanza, and she halfway through the movie, which is deep into the movie to realize this, she sees Stanley Tucci and she stops the movie. She's like, "Oh my god, that's a bad man." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "That's the bad guy in Lovely Bones." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's an actor." And she was like, "Oh, I can't watch this movie. It scares me." I'm like, "Okay." It's like Jesus.
Well, he is.
Which is funny because it's definitely like the rare one where I feel like he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
It's weird. I didn't even know it was a bad guy in that. He, of course, wore an awesome hairpiece, but he's an egotistical guy, and he's like the lead scientist. He's one of the scientists for the government. And Aaron Eckhart's like, "You need to look at this," and he's like, they go back to his house, which is weird because he just met this guy, but he's like, "All right, come back to my house to talk about it." And he figures out, oh shit, this might be real. But he tells him, "Look, we're going to go through this, and I'm sure at some point you missed something, and you're totally wrong," because he thinks the Earth's core is slowing down. Or stopping. And of course, then right when he leaves, he doesn't even wait long enough to hear the door shut. Zimski calls Purcell and he's like, "We have a problem." He gets out his top secret file, just so you know that some shit's happening. Gets out the top secret file from his cool, locked box file cabinet, and he's like, "We got a problem, right?" Of course, From
I
there,
love that. Is this a scene where everything says top secret all over it?
Just-
and
you
you're
gotta
like,
know.
is that really the best way to store top secret files by like putting this giant arrow as like, this is the cool thing you want to look at?
well, in the Cold War, they tried saying not secret, but the Russians kept figuring
That's
it out.
crazy
They would just
that we
read through
don't have
everything.
another option for
It's
labeling
pretty
things.
wild. We get of course, from here, we have to present to all of the government officials. And Zimsky's like, "Are you sure I shouldn't be doing this?" And he's like, "No, we got to get this guy to do it." This is where we get the great scene with the peaches, where for no reason, just for effect, he asks at the beginning of his presentation if someone has a can of aerosol air freshener.
Yeah.
And then
I do.
Oddly specific.
Purcell just looks over at the guy guarding the door. He's like, "Can you go get?" And the guy's
Yeah.
like, "Fuck, I guess I'll find aerosol air freshener somewhere in this building."
Really quick
depending on.
before this, the thing that pisses me off about this movie and was so early on is that right before that, him and his teacher friend get shit-faced drunk,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just go to the place and he's sober. What the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? Hey, let him be drunk. Let him be drunk during this thing. Like, I don't know what's going on. And he has to sober up a little bit. No, he's just
And
completely
he's
sober.
just like, give me the hairspray.
Yeah.
Let me light this on fire and show
I
what's
hate when
up.
movies do that stuff. Like, if someone's drunk, if someone's high, you got to continue that narrative.
Absolutely.
Like, why are we just pretending that?
I'm drunk right now.
Oh.
From here, everyone's
Well-
like, "Oh shit, yeah."
I was just gonna say real quick, the thing that bothers me is that the metaphor doesn't really make any sense. Right? Like he's like, look, and he sets the thing on fire. It's like, this is Earth or whatever. But you don't see any of that ever. You just see birds getting lost. You see electrical storms. It's like he could have done just like, here's the Earth, and then thrown it on the ground and stepped on it, and it would have had the same effect of Earth gonna be gone, right? Like
It is one of those things where you go like, when you start thinking about it, because we do have the one shot of the ozone layer like depleting and the sun breaking, like the microwaves and the ultraviolet rays from the sun breaking through, and you think to yourself like, how, and then that happens, and then there's like another day that it takes them to go and reset the Earth's core, and then you have to imagine that the Earth has to start spinning in like maybe another 2. So how long could a unobstructed 40-mile wide hole in the ozone layer with the sun burrowing through in California, how long could that happen before the whole fucking world is just irradiated, right?
It's a great question.
And it's a question we'll never answer because as
No.
we're moving along at a very, very fast clip on this bad boy.
Let's go.
Now we got to save the world, right? So we go over to Dr. Brazzoloni or whatever Delroy Lindo's character was named. He hates Dr. Zimsky because Dr. Zimsky's an asshole, slow all his work, but he's been working on his ship for a very, very long time, and he's got a couple cool things in here, right? One is a laser that can just burrow a perfect hole through the Earth, and everyone's like, that's pretty cool.
He says the line, if you've ever seen ultrasonic lasers break up a kidney stone on Discovery Channel, it's just like that.
Now, one of the
What?
reasons why I vibe with this movie, Roger, give me your pen, you're not allowed to write anymore, is because I did a report in 11th grade science class about just that. Using ultrasonic waves, like sound waves, to break up kidney stones.
God, you're
'Cause
so
And then
cool.
from that point on, I was terrified of
Was
getting
it
a
because
kidney
of this
stone.
movie?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
No,
I
it
was
was
in high school.
1992.
My bad.
It was actually, it was 1996. It's not that far off, sadly enough. Actually, 97 would have been junior year. But of course, he's got that, and you're like, cool, okay, that's what we need. But no, we can't do that because we have to go to the center of the Earth, right? There's a lot of shit that has to happen here. You have to be able to core, and then you have to have a ship that's built to withstand this core, right? And so he's like, well, I've also, aside from doing this groundbreaking, probably like Nobel Prize winning work in ultrasonic lasers that could revolutionize how we burrow holes into the ground and dig for oil and dig for ore and all of these things. I'm also a molecular biologist. And I've taken tungsten ore, titanium, and a bunch of other cool things, and I've made this new ore called unobtainium that could save rats from heat. I put a rat in a box.
Pretty sick scene.
Pretty cool.
It is
Pretty cool. It was
Pretty
cool.
fucking cool,
Pretty
right?
cool.
But then if that's not to add insult to injury, but we also need a way to see. We have to see underground, right? And how do we see underground? X-ray vision. And thank God, Aaron Eckhart, aside from being a global geologist or whatever the fuck he is, also studies X-rays because he made this cool way to see through the core of the Earth. And
The same technology from Osmosis Jones.
but
So
we get
true.
we get a scene here, right? That's well, first off, we get my favorite line in the movie where he's like,
I think he said that.
give me 10 to 12 years and we can and I'll have this like perfected. And then Richard Jenkins goes, well, how do we get it done in 3 months? And he goes, I don't know, a check for $50 billion.
Yeah.
Will you take a check?
Yeah.
Let's fucking go, right? We're in the cool montage sequence, except we're not really in a fun montage sequence because we just get like one shot of them failing, and Bruce Greenwood's like, congratulations, we killed everyone on the planet for the 11th time.
Here's what I like about that scene, though, is that they built this giant hydraulic thing so that way she could get used to like sitting in the cockpit of it. But I'm like, that's what you used to film this movie.
Oh, that's hilarious, actually.
That is for sure the skeleton of whatever you had her sitting on when you needed the whole people in it. Like,
what an economical way of shooting.
We skipped over most important character intro. Was the hacker.
Yeah.
Rat
how
or whatever.
could you
What's his
forget?
name?
Rat.
Now,
DJ Qualls.
again, you want to know, now we're really digging in because now we're really understanding Nick's brain and why I'm nostalgic for this. At one point,
Terrifying.
they go, Rat, we need you to control the flow of information. And he goes, for what? For like a city, a state? They go, no, for the whole planet. And he goes, you want me to hack the planet? And of course, Roger, you and I go way back.
Yeah.
High school, college.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies ever. And one day we'll watch it because it'll blow your brains out. It's Hackers.
Oh, I thought that's where that line was from. This movie.
No.
Oh.
In Hackers, they literally, Matthew Lillard screams, hack the planet, because that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to, stick it to the man by hacking the planet. They don't really hack the planet. They just hack like one network.
Yeah.
And man, the CGI, if you think the CGI is bad in this movie, wait till I make you watch that piece of shit.
You're really selling it with that line.
It's great. It's one of Angelina
I'm in.
Jolie's like first movies. It's fantastic. Johnny Lee Miller's in it as well. Anyway, he goes hack the planet. And I go, I love this character, right? And of course, you know this guy from Road Trip.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. Breaking
Yeah.
Bad.
Supernatural.
Roger doesn't know.
We all have very different touchstones for TJ.
I was very high when I wrote these notes, so I wrote, "You wouldn't download a car, head ass." That's this entire vibe. I love him.
So we got Rat on it now. He's gonna control the flow with his network. No one's ever gonna know what's going on. Birds are flying out of the sky, and we don't have Twitter back then, so it's cool. So we still had. truth.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I know we
No,
keep on
stop
derailing,
it.
but then remember when he had the line where he was like, "How many languages do you speak?" I speak
Oh,
1,
yeah, yeah.
0, 1.
0-1-0-0.
We go, and English.
There's a line that DJ Qualls says later in the movie, which is something to the effect of, "That's the EMP reader. That's how you read EMP."
Oh, yeah.
Explain what it. Oh.
I'm happy he's here. I wish
I
he was. I
want-
wish he was in the core. Like he was actually going to the core. Of the
Okay,
universe.
so I wrote a couple of his lines down. One of which was, they say, "I need you to control the internet," and he says, and I quote, "You're dreaming. Nobody controls the net." And when you called it the net back then, it
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
That's how you
serious.
knew someone was like in. They knew
Yeah.
the net. He also has a line about kung fu in here, where he goes, "My kung fu is strong,"
I also had that written down.
so many.
Which I
so many
love.
kung fu references.
and then he asked for a lot of hot pockets, and I ate
This
a lot
is
of
my
hot
kung
pockets when I was
fu,
a
and
kid.
it is
And
strong.
it is strong. Come on,
And
DJ
at
Quail.
the end of the movie, spoiler for the end of the movie, the disc that he puts into the computer is labeled Kung Fu.
Indeed.
Yep.
He saw The Matrix also. From here, we go over to Bex. Bex, I will skip around a little bit, but she has her committee meeting where they're like, hey, it turns out you actually did a fucking awesome job landing this plane like everyone would have died. So, hey, not only are you getting we're giving a trophy for that, but you have to go on a mission right now. She goes over to meet with them. From here, they're like, what do we call ourselves? And she goes, Terranauts?
Which I think is kind of cool.
He dropped the pen, everybody.
I
Come
don't know.
on,
He dropped
bro.
that. It's good.
Terranauts?
Kind of
Terranauts.
goes hard.
It goes hard.
Kind of goes hard.
My kung fu is stronger than your kung fu.
No, that one's so bad.
Okay. We get the training montage. It does not go well. We get a nice endearing scene where I guess they're setting up the romance between Aaron Eckhart and Hilary Swank.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's
It's
bad.
nothing.
And here's why I think it's bad. Like, we've set up that she's a very capable character, and we've shown that throughout the movie, right? We didn't have to tell you that she was very smart or very good at her job. We have one great scene where nobody can land the plane, and she does some math on her thing and goes, change your approach vector to this. And everyone doubts her, and she goes, I fucking just do it. And they do it, and she saves the day. That's all we needed to know. We have one great scene later where Bruce Greenwood goes, hey, the reason why I think you're not ready is not because you don't succeed. You always succeed. It's because you haven't failed yet. You don't know what it's like to lose and keep moving forward. And that's foreshadowing for the rest of the movie. At some point, we know she's going to lose and have to step into the chair and move forward, and spoiler, she does. So we really don't need a scene where she walks over to a piece of tech that she has never fucking seen before and has zero context for and literally like zero training for, and flick a couple switches and then save the day on that one. It's so weird. But Aaron Eckhart is so charming that I believe it.
Is he? I feel like he
don't think
doesn't
he's
have
charming
any
at
of his charm
It's
in
always
this
darkest
movie.
before the dawn. Hack the planet.
That's true. That's true.
That was
Yeah,
Furies.
this whole sequence pissed me off because right before that they were like, "Hey, how are you doing, Aaron Eckhart?" He's like, "Man, I'm not doing too good. I'm gonna have to tell everybody that the world is ending." And they don't do that. He doesn't tell anybody that the world is ending. I was waiting for that moment. I was waiting for him to tell everybody, like, do the whole rousing speech of like, "Hey, the world's ending, but we got to do this. We got to come together." And they just have a training montage and everything's done.
I assume it's because they didn't want to like tread on like the Armageddon-ish thing where they let everybody know.
yeah, I guess.
Well, he tells everyone in the room that the world's ending. But then they establish, like, if we tell everyone in the world, there'll be mass
no.
hysteria,
I'm saying in the
apparently.
room. They don't show that. They don't show him
Oh,
sitting
but
down and
he's-
being like, "Hey, everybody, this is what's happening. This
I
is
mean,
what we
that's
got
what
to
the
do."
peach was for.
That's true.
You know?
That's true.
If I light a peach up, if I say this is your balls, and I light
Yeah.
that up, you go, I'm not, my balls are gone after this, right?
I also don't know that you could drop a peach into like a beaker of water and have it like immediately boil it. I think it would just. I just don't think that the science on that one checks out either.
I think you have to suspend disbelief until you
For
believe.
literally everything in
For
this
everything.
movie.
We'll skip around a little bit here because we're getting along in the tooth on this one. Of course, we're on the training montage. We're having fun. And now, oh no, I think Rome, the Colosseum exploded. So we got to go now. Now is the time to go now. We go to the cool place where they launched the ship from Contact, which was like the exact same environment. And we see the ship for the first time. I do want to also, and James, you're a writer. And so I
Thank
know
you.
you'll appreciate this.
Yeah.
I know you'll appreciate something we like to call a plot device.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
When you first watched this movie, did you think how creative it is that there is 6 sections to this ship and we have 5 bombs or whatever the fuck? Why is this ship
Oh,
built
yeah.
like a train? Why does that make any sense?
It's Snowpiercer.
It is-
Snowpiercer. Like at the back is the kindergarten, and then after that is the sushi restaurant, and then after that,
But
There's
why
so
would you
chill.
not just make this like a submarine? You know?
yeah, I don't know.
Like-
I don't know. Do they do say that there is some sort of thing where if one section is damaged, it's designed so that way it can release it, so that way it can still keep going.
I
and
guess
move
that
on.
I guess that makes sense, but like
But only if it gets damaged from the back to the front.
yes. Right. So if the middle section is damaged, you have to just do all you can't recouple it, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, they set that up because they've got the 5 bombs. We've also set up that we're going to explode the core. And we're going to restart the core because that's the problem with this whole movie is that the Earth's core has stopped. We'll later talk about. We'll just say it now. It's because of Project Destiny because we developed this weapon that was a seismic weapon that should be able to you shoot it through the Earth, aim it at a place in Asia, and that'll cause an earthquake for our enemies or wherever our enemies happen to be in the world, and that has destabilized the core of the planet and has caused it to stop. So Stanley Tucci is in fact one of the reasons why this movie is so good.
Which can I add that Destiny stands for something?
Yes, it does. You're absolutely
stands
does.
For what is it? It stands for Deep Earth Seismic Trigger Initiative.
Yeah. Yep.
So they're like, we can't get all the last word gets 3 letters. I.
It reminds me of the old Norm Macdonald joke where he's like in ID. It stands for identification. I feel like D's doing a lot of heavy lifting in that one. Great joke. We got to get the ship on the ground, guys, and it's dangling over the water. And when it goes in, did you guys think that it was like poop going into a toilet, or am I the only crazy person?
Yeah, it just kind of disappears in there.
I
Yeah.
did
goes
not
boom,
think
boom.
about
Yeah.
that.
I was really confused because they're all facing up, but then the ship drops down.
Yeah.
They did
And
it
I
because
was-
as they
it's-
drop down, so their heads would be here, and then they switch back.
Yeah, and once they get into it, then all their seats turn around,
Yeah.
and then they go, "All right, let's go." But I feel like they didn't establish. So I was just watching. I was like, "Why is one? It's shooting it."
Oh, it's
to go
super
that-
confusing.
It's shooting it as though there's the front, but then they're all facing up, like they're gonna go up. I'm like, is it dropping in back? I was like, do they flip around or whatever? Anyway, they find the whales.
They find the whales. Also, this is a nostalgic moment for me as well because my mom used to have one of those Volvos where you sat backward.
Oh, those
So
are
I was
cool.
like, this movie's hitting
Oh,
on
yeah.
all cylinders for
Station
me.
wagon
Nice.
life.
We see the whales because we fired up the harmonic resonances or whatever, which is a thing that we've never established in this movie. It doesn't matter. We just say it. The whales are there, and they're like, the whales are singing to us. And then Swank's like, actually, technically, we're singing to them because I know everything about harmonics as well. From there, oh, shit. Seismic, something happened. The Earth's caught across. Now we're caught in a crosswind. We're going real fast. We better fire up these lasers. And Brass is like, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. And they're like, why not?
I don't understand.
Because I think I think what we've established is that the ship doesn't work unless there's pressure. They needed to hit a certain amount of pressure for the lasers to fire up. Why you wouldn't just have like a little bit of a backup battery, like your car has that starter engine, and you got a little starter that starts the engine, cranks whatever. Doesn't matter.
There's a lot of science in this. Some of it they explain thoroughly, And then other stuff they just throw in one line because they realize they got to that point in the movie where they need to kind of say why.
Yeah.
Like, why can't they turn on the laser? And then he just throws in a line or whatever. Yeah, like the pressure thing. Like, he doesn't really mention pressure too much, but then he's like, oh, there's a pressure thing.
Yeah.
It gets stronger the more pressure there is.
Yeah, it's like the liquid nitrogen. They're like, oh, yeah, and that keeps us cool. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
From here, we're coring, baby. Now we're in the core.
We're
We've
coring.
successfully entered the mantle of the earth, which is just a little tippity top, the skin of the peach, so to speak. And now we're going through. And then, so this is where this movie starts getting just fucking awesome for me.
This is where you want to find it on TV.
This is where
Okay.
you want to come in, okay?
Yes.
Because you
Halfway
want
through the movie.
you want to talk about something that is just visually a tour de force. Colored static.
Oh, yeah.
That looks somewhat like an X-ray or an MRI, like just something like some sort of. They couldn't have come up with something better for this.
No.
But I love this moment because they're rolling. We're like, we're good, baby. And then someone goes, "Hey, what is that? What's all the darkness there? What's that? What's that black spot?"
good.
That's the best thing about it is that we brought Aaron Eckhart because he knows everything.
Everything.
About the center of the earth. And then as soon as they get in, he goes, what's that?
Yeah.
I didn't account for that. We can't
And he
fucking
goes-
fly.
That was
and he
not
goes-
part of my lecture.
And he goes, "Uh-oh, I know what it is. It's nothing. I never taught the computer how to show nothing," which is funny. So it displays it as, so, Roger,
Yeah,
if I'm lying, I'm dying.
yeah.
We've established that anything that is pitch black on this sensor is nothing, except for diamonds, which are also pitch black on this sensor.
Yeah.
If you
It's a
remember
lot of
that.
diamonds.
A lot of diamonds in this too. So like, why weren't they a different color? Because you know that
Were they
diamonds are going to be there.
outlined?
They were sort of outlined, but it was like we're playing fast and loose with the
Oh,
color,
yeah.
like the gradient spectrum of colors that we're seeing in this vision. Anyway, they fall through it, and this is where I this might not be, but we're just going to skip around. We're going to go to the crystal scene now.
Now this
Yeah,
was
that's the
really
crystal scene.
really quick with the going back to I think the theme throughout these three movies has been Roger's broken brain and me thinking that we're going to turn left when we're just continuing right.
Yeah.
When he was like, "Hey, there's nothing," and I was like, "Oh shit." It's a black hole. We're going to another universe.
So you
Like
thought-
now we're going
Contact.
to. This is where we get the dinosaurs. Yeah.
Why?
Oh.
Where did you
Journey
thought
to
they
the
were
center of the
down?
earth.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. I just thought we're
Oh,
going to the
is
core
your
of the.
only-
Magic.
Ice Age 3.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's
I think
why.
it-
Did
I
I
think
miss
that's
the
why.
guy getting crushed?
What?
No.
No.
The guy getting
No,
crushed?
no, no.
Oh,
Not yet. Not yet. We're gonna.
Don't worry
we're gonna
about that. We'll
crush
get
him.
to
We're gonna
that.
crush him.
Was like Journey to the Center of the Earth with Brendan Fraser like a big deal for you or no?
A little bit, but
Okay.
like I do just feel like
Or,
there's
like, Land of
dinosaurs
the
in the
Lost.
in like the middle of the world. So
Oh,
like,
is it because we
well-
just watched all the Godzilla and
the
Kong
Godzilla
movies?
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
what it
that's
was.
probably what's happening.
That's where
Okay,
you're
we
getting
figured it
this.
out.
Yeah, we
figured it
got to
out.
the core of it.
The core of it. God
Gonna
damn.
hit him
Use
the
it
third time I
5
say it.
times. Over
Third
and
time I
over.
use it, it's gonna be good. From here, we're oh shit, and I like this concept. Oh, they're gonna free fall, and they free fall, and then somehow the ship lands perfectly this way, even though it was free falling downward, and the gravity would have just nosedive this thing. Doesn't matter because this is a massive. There's just big ass crystals, and Roger, you know, you and I believe in crystals, the healing power of crystals, because you're a Sagittarius and I'm an Aquarius, and that's what we do. But these crystals are big. You feel like let's get one in the ship. Let's take it home, right? This might be the biggest crystal anyone's ever seen. Let's make some money off this.
You were like amethyst, right? That's what he
Something
said.
like that. But here's where we start getting interesting. Because one of the crystals gets stuck in the engine, right? But the only way to get in through the ship, they didn't build a door. You gotta go in through the nose.
They only had 3 months.
We only have 3 months. So we gotta cool off the impeller with the liquid nitrogen, which is gonna make everything a little bit cold or hotter in the ship. We go out there, we start cutting this down. Now we're cutting a crystal approximately 15, maybe 20 feet away from where we enter the ship. I'll say 10, actually, to be nice. All hell starts breaking loose because they've pierced now this the tungsten whatever up top. It starts bleeding in. The crystal that they're in starts compressing, and everything's going to hell, and all this shit starts going crazy, and the pressure is starting to crush them, right? So the crystals start falling through. Oh no, we're out of oxygen to this massive laser that you have to imagine is taking like tanks and tanks of oxygen. So Aaron Eckhart, being a selfish man that he is, takes his own oxygen out and plugs it into the tank, and then stands there and looks at it.
Yeah, it doesn't tell anyone.
Doesn't tell anyone, doesn't walk 5 more feet back into the ship that we've already established has its own oxygen because Hilary Swank is in there like, guys, tell me what the fuck's going on here, right? So he just passes out for no reason and almost dies. And then Bruce Greenwood saves the day, as he does because he's Batman, kicks the crystal out, and we get the awesomest shot of this whole movie where one little tiny piece of crystal just goes right through his head, and he goes, huh. And he falls back in the
Blood
lava and
everywhere.
dies.
But Hilary Swank, she didn't have anything to look at. She had to pretend that she saw his heartbeat stop on the monitor, and that was the hardest thing she's ever had to do.
James, remember when
Imagining a heartbeat monitor falling flat is the hardest thing she's ever had to do.
remember? I mean, have you seen one? I've never seen one in person.
I wrote through one.
Roger made one for me in After
I know
Effects
too.
one time. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'm gonna say about this. Swank delivers a great performance here, and it's
Does
one of those
she?
things. It's one of those things where you go, Joey. We've talked about this a lot. Scorsese gets the Academy Award for The Departed. We all know it's his worst film. Hilary Swank gets the
Can't do
Academy
this
Award for
again.
$1 Million Baby. I say we sign a petition right now. Get her the award for this scene. right here.
Retroactively.
Retroactively.
I like that.
Because man, she's
We
like,
could get
guys, what are we
her-
doing? Are you there? Can someone talk to me? What's happening?
With
Bad.
no sense
The
of
whole
urgency,
movie, she's like, I don't know what's
really.
happening. I'm in the cockpit. I don't get to do anything fun in this movie.
Rewatching this whole sequence, I was like, what was the issue? It's unclear to me what the issue was, because they drop down
Yeah.
and then they're in this thing, and they cut a crystal, but then when it's all resolved, the lava just fills up, and then they just go anyway, and they just kind of like a walrus going back into the water. They just go back on their way.
What's amazing about that is, yeah.
Couldn't they have just been like, oh no, we're stuck here, and then they're like, oh thank God, the lava's filling up this place. As soon as the lava starts, we can just keep going again.
I thought about that too. And the answer, right after this ad break.
No.
No,
We
we're not
already
doing
did
another one.
that.
No,
We
I
already
don't have
did
an
that.
answer for it. Yeah, this is dumb.
All right, tell me the answer.
There's just no reason why like we see the crystals burning too, and you're like, oh, the lava would have burned the crystals. Why not just get back in the ship
Yeah.
and wait?
The ship is designed for that environment.
Yes, it actually thrives in this environment. It prefers it.
They would have been trapped there forever if lava hadn't started pouring in. It did. I was like, I was watching. I was going, what are they doing outside of the ship?
I think they forgot, right? You know what I mean? Like lava is just is
favorite
bad to
plot
humans,
device.
right?
They
Like
forgot.
so they were like, oh shit, we got to get out of this lava, and they're like, oh fuck, forgot lava good.
The
lava good
only
this time.
the only thing I'll say is like at one point he makes a point of being like, we got to check the lasers to make sure they're still working. So the reason they got out was just if they needed to be fixed. You can't do that when the ship's surrounded by lava, obviously. But it doesn't matter because Bruce Greenwood does not fail, and he doesn't fail in this. And off we go into the wild blue yonder. Of course,
But
Aaron
also,
Eckhart now is shirtless.
the
Important to note.
reaction to his death from everyone is nothing.
Like, ooh, all right, bye.
Sorry, you
Yep.
think that Hilary Swank's gonna have this like big reaction? He's like her mentor or boss or whatever the fuck they are. I don't know what they are. And just nothing.
Zero.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Zero.
He's just literally a casualty just to like hit that
The body count.
the body count for this movie.
I believe this is where I typed in all caps in my notes. Where is the soul of this movie? Like, there's nothing here.
It's right in Aaron Eckhart's butt and chin. I'll tell you what, he wakes up shirtless for no reason.
Yeah,
Why is he shirtless?
feels good.
He's so sweaty.
Get the oxygen back in faster.
Did he have to put? They have to put monitors on.
There
him?
was no monitors
No.
on. He just
Okay,
wakes up
okay.
shirtless for no reason. And then he's like, what happened? And she goes, well, Iverson died. That's the bad news. The good news is I'm the captain now, which is pretty cool. I've wanted that since the beginning of this movie.
Well, because they said the good news, the bad news, and I made a joke to Leanne. I was like, the good news, none of us are dead. And they literally did that.
The bad news, there's 50 more minutes of this fine film.
Oh my.
From here, we get a little heartfelt scene with Serge where he's like, man, Aaron Eckhart's like, man.
Oh, we
this
also
is
missed the part, which is one of my favorite quotes of this. And I believe it's Stanley Tucci says, "We are diving into the memories of the planet."
Oh, I love every scene in this where he's
What does
narrating.
that even mean?
Well, that's the point, right? Is he's doing this cheese dicky like narration and everyone's annoyed by it. Baz has that one line. It's like, are you gonna monologue the entire
Oh.
time?
Very
It just-
coconut tree coated, you know, like
Okay, at least this won me over.
Yeah, I love that.
We get a scene here now where Aaron Eckhart's just bereft and he's like, this is too big. And Serge, of all people, of course, who's a bad guy from, I like to think of him as the same character. Like this is a prequel to Bad Boys.
Okay.
And this is what Cinema.
Weird.
I think that
Um,
works.
Yeah. Prequel.
He dies in both. So I was like, which one would have?
Reincarnation. We'll go with that.
He goes, saving 2 billion people is too big. I'm just doing this to save 3. My wife and my 2 daughters, who of course you've met multiple times in this film.
So many mentions of this family of his.
And it's great. And this is great. And this line's going to come back later in the film.
Okay, real quick.
Yeah.
So he's like his science buddy, right?
Mhm.
Because they were like friends, but they keep calling him the weapons specialist. which
Yeah.
makes him sound way more military. Like, it's weird. Like, if it were me and I was a scientist, also a geophysicist or whatever, like Aaron Eckhart, and they were like, this guy's the weapons specialist,
the
I'd
nukes.
be like, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah.
I am not the weapons specialist.
I don't want that. I don't want that going down in the history books. Like that. I'm the
Yeah.
guy that made the nukes, like Oppenheimer. Let's see here. Okay, so this is where we're checking the weapons now. I don't know why. I don't know why these weapons aren't just kind of mine, but we got to check all the
They're
detonators.
they're
and all that stuff.
synchronizing the timers. Yeah,
That makes
timers
sense.
on the detonators.
I love
You got to
that.
do that by hand, of course.
Mhm.
And so they're cool. And then all of a sudden, Beck's like, "Uh-oh, there's two big things coming out. What are they?" And Zimsky goes, "They're diamonds, the world's biggest diamonds." And of course, they almost dodge them. They don't. They get at the last minute. They're like, "Cool, we're out." And then they forgot. Hey, you know that the 90% of the iceberg's mass is below the water, and they've got one little thing
Roger,
that
have you
pokes
seen
out.
Titanic?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's a good disaster movie.
Which isn't that pressure? How does this ship work? Because they're like, oh, pressure doesn't hurt it, but then when pressure from a diamond does hit, it's like the whole thing crumples apart.
Well, it's self-healing, if to begin with.
Well, clearly not. 'Cause
It's definitely not.
Surge gets crumpled.
You would imagine this would be like any other good submarine movie where the second the submarine depressurizes it, it just implodes. It goes boom
Yeah.
and then it explodes. But it does not, because of course that would not be fun. We have to see Surge die first. Surge gives himself in a great scene.
It's so
in
good.
a
I
great
hate this.
scene.
So good.
I hate this so
where he
much.
realizes, I think it's like the detonators are still in there, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Shit, we got to get the detonators out." By the way, the
and his
nukes.
notes.
By the way, the nukes aren't in there. The nukes are in a different compartment. He's got to get his notes. That's right. He's got to get his notes. Gets his notes.
But also looks around.
Looks
so
around
much.
Yeah.
so much. Dives down as the door slowly closes, and Aaron Eckhart screams to him, "Surge, Surge, get through!" And Surge goes, "There's just not enough time." And he goes, "In the time," and this is a direct quote from Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah.
He says, "In the time it took you to say that line, you could have gone through the fucking door."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I just don't have the time, Josh. Move on."
More than that, the thing that kills me about this is that Surge does like this heroic self-sacrifice. Like, it seems like he's aware, like, I'm not going to make this, but if the detonators don't make it through and they don't have my notes, then this mission is doomed. So this is the only way to save my family. And then they spend the next 5 minutes cutting to him on the monitor, looking so scared and confused as someone crumples up the little thing that it's just like a shelf pushing it, and he's like, "Josh, what's happening, Josh?" It's like, why it should have been him like being like, "Go there, save it, you can
And
win,"
then-
and then the whole thing
Tell my
crumbles
family
in
I
an
love them. Something.
Yeah.
I was dying. I was losing my mind because he's getting slowly crushed, and Aaron Eckhart's going, "Buddy, when you get out of there, buddy,
Yeah.
we're gonna go for a beer together,
Well,
buddy."
he does that, but then he
He's
also
gonna-
says, "We won't
We're gonna
forget
take your
about you.
kids." Yeah.
We won't forget about you. Don't worry about
The
this."
second when you get out of here, we're going to Paris. Trip to Paris. You always wanted to take. We're going to Paris together, Serge. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. If I was Serge, I would be like, stop talking. Just let me get crushed.
He's like, "There's a filing cabinet in my ass."
It reminded me. I couldn't help but laugh when I see this scene every single time. Because every time it cuts back, it's like more and more his like eyes going
Yeah.
through a piece of metal. It reminded me of the scene in Austin
Top
Powers
Secret?
I was gonna say Austin Powers with Will Ferrell, where he's like, "I'm very badly burned.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still
there's-
alive."
There's a scene in the spoof movie Top Secret with Val Kilmer where like one of the I forget, somebody gets crushed like that, and it's all, and then when he shows up later, he's just flat.
He's in the metal from they crush him in a car, right? And he comes back and he like
Yes.
walks through. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's a better
It
pull.
could have been a really cool heroic moment. I do like Delroy Lindo, because he's like trying to override the systems and do it, and then at a certain point he's just looking in and he's like, "I don't know."
Honestly, that scene actually, because Delroy Lindo he's such a good actor. He has
great.
that moment where he goes, "I don't know what I'm doing."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's just got wires in front of him and it's not his area of expertise, and he's like breaking down. I'm like, that's a fucking good scene. And it would be better if Aaron Eckhart wasn't screaming like a child right next to him. He's like,
Oh.
"Bex, what are you doing? I won't forget.
Yeah. Open the door, Bex.
Open the door, Bex."
I was yelling for you.
Of course, Hilary Swank matching that. And of course, you guys know I know everything about acting.
Mhm.
You know, that's why I get cast in everything. That's why I'm a great voice actor. That's why I've been in so many narrative things.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love in this sequence is when you act in a scene, Joey. There's two schools of thought. One is, do you want to match and complement the energy of your co-star in this
Yeah.
scene? Or do you want to go so far lower than them that it makes them seem like a child who is just raving and ranting and like you're in two separate scenes?
Mhm.
Because Hilary Swank is so disinterested in
She's
what the
giving
fuck is
absolutely
happening in this.
nothing.
She's giving him zero in this scene. Just zero. Well, he's at 120 and she's at a solid 20% this entire film. And I respect that.
I'm surprised you haven't brought up her hair.
She's trying to be nice.
I was more of just choosing to focus on Aaron Eckhart's haircut
Okay.
in this, but man, yeah, her hair is fucking terrible in this. It's a bad
It's
haircut.
really bad.
This
Do you
is
think it's a wig?
I
you
don't
think it's
think
her
so.
hair?
I think it was just the early 2000s. I think it was like low-rise jeans, boot cuts, and
We
bad
were all a
haircuts.
victim to the early 2000s.
We sure as hell were.
Not me.
Surge is
Heard of that
dead.
one.
Uh-oh, wait a minute. The core is overheating. But did you know there's a crawl space underneath this? We got to. Oh, no, I think that was what it was. Somebody figures out next that the nukes aren't going to work. Oh, that's right. They break in. Sorry, guys. My bad. I should go off my notes.
Yeah.
They break into the core finally.
Well,
and they're there.
Before that, they find out that Stanley Tucci's like, it's ruined. We can't do this mission.
Oh, right.
The plan, and he was the weapons specialist, so we can't do it. So I'm going to call it in, which is in my version, you cut all this. You don't need it.
Oh, yeah. Well,
But
you need
he
destiny because you need some sort of ticking clock, but this is
he
the second
says-
ticking clock.
But then they turn off the clock. So they basically were like, oh, okay. We have this other device, and it was a fail-safe plan where they're just going to use this thing. And then they go, that's the thing that caused all this in the first place.
Right.
But we're going to try and shoot this thing, but it's going to kill them, and it might not work, and it'll be their last shot, and et cetera, et cetera. Stanley Tucci's like, turn it around, and like, we're going to keep doing this mission. And then so that starts that thing, which ultimately fuses out like a really lame.
And and so they have to figure out, because the core is thinner. We have that one great line from Stanley Tucci earlier where Bruce Greenwood's like, he's like, what happens if the core, the outer core is a different density than what you think? And he goes, my dear man, all of science is his best guess. And he goes, so my guess is you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And he didn't, because now they have to reconfigure everything. Got to come up with plan B, which leads into plan C. And meanwhile, Destiny has started. So Rat has to figure out how to stop Destiny, or at least stall it out. Now I'll say this. The cockpit is terrible, but wherever this Project Destiny headquarters is kind of lit.
Yeah, it's like a Godzilla movie.
It's pretty. It's like a Godzilla
Yeah,
movie. That's
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what I thought too. Everything's
Oh,
like
yeah.
sterile and white, and the graphics are all
Yeah.
really big and cool and clean. I was like,
That was gonna be the sister film, the Destiny movie.
oh, that's sick.
Think about that.
They fire, and everyone that works at Destiny just seems like really nice people. By the way,
Yeah.
They're like, oh, the power's out. Gee whiz.
Oh,
Wow.
shucks.
Anyway, we're down there, and they figure out, okay, wait. And Zimski figures it out first. He's like, wait a minute. What if we need? I forget what the term was. I had it here, but I'm just too far gone. We need to blow them up in a sequence, and each wave will back the other wave up, and then that'll just create this system where the whole thing just starts going and yada yada yada. And I'm sure the science back behind it. In my brain, it's like spinning a top, where eventually it'll just slow down, but that's not how gravity works.
No.
Roger, don't be stupid. And so they figure it out. They got to drop canister to canister. And then blow them up within like 30 seconds of each other, but they have to drop them perfectly. Oh, but guess what, guys? It wasn't designed to do this manually. We can't do this manually. Why not?
Well, you can, but you have to crawl through essentially the heat sink.
But he goes, but what's hilarious about this is when you start really thinking about this. This is what we call the crystal conundrum again, right? Where we've already seen one of these things, like go right. I guess it must have been automated, and they just couldn't stop the process of it going. But you have to imagine that if something was pierced and you noticed it and the system malfunctioned, there's a button you could hit that would manually override it and just eject the compartment, right? Doesn't matter, because Delroy Lindo's like, if someone's gonna bleed for this ship, if Virgil needs more blood, it's gonna be my blood.
Yeah.
Dr. Baz being, of course, the real hero here, because he has everyone draw straws and he folds his.
Yeah, it's so dumb. And then they
And
do
then
the
they
thing
find
where then
it.
they're like, oh no, he's like, no, I'm going. It's like fucking.
It's awesome. First off, how dare
But
you?
there's
And
also,
second
like,
off,
No, makes me think of the Armageddon scene where it's like it's Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis is like, no. There's like no stakes to
No.
this. It's just like,
no, because
this
they
is
just
my
let him
ship.
go. They go, oh yeah, well, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
You're right. Like, it's done better in Armageddon because AJ draws the stick.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I guess it's me. And he goes, absolutely. And as he's going in, he rips his fucking hair off. And he goes, if it's
so
gonna, it's
good.
got to be me. Take care of Gracie. And it's that wonderful moment where he's fucking hated him the entire film,
Yeah.
but not really, because he really kind of views him as a son-in-law.
Yeah.
And he's like, and now it's your turn. You got to take care of my daughter. You fucking better, I'll haunt your ass. God,
What if we
so
just watched
good.
Armageddon again?
We're gonna rank it, babe. We're gonna rank it. Sorry, James, I interrupted you. What were you gonna say about
No, I was
Armageddon?
just gonna say this. If the runtime wasn't an issue with this film, I would be fine with scenes like this. But since it is, the fact that there's so many points in this movie where it goes one way, then back, and then back to the first way it was, is just like it's nonsense and it's a waste of time.
And it could have just been I mean, they had to kill everyone off, but it could have just literally been like, you're the only person that knows how to do this. Like, that's all they needed to say. But
it happens again with Stanley Tucci. Like, the exact same thing happens again, where it's like, I'll tell everyone that you're going to be okay. Leaves. Oh wait, I'm going to tell everyone you're going to be okay. Like everything is constantly repeated.
We get a scene here that I think is actually, dare I say, the only weak point of this movie.
Oh,
this is really the only flaw.
Is Golden Gate Bridge.
The only flaw. No, the Golden Gate Bridge got destroyed. All that stuff. We get the ozone layer. All shit's breaking. I'm talking about. They go like this. What is the temperature right now in that crawl space? Oh, yeah. And somebody says 9,000 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever the fuck it is. And then Baz goes, and then someone says, hey, how much can our suits withstand? And then someone says 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That gap is such a wide margin.
Double?
That you just go like, there's no, right? And I just think about it this way. Think about it this way. Right? If it's 90 degrees outside, and then someone goes, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. It's 180 degrees outside. You go, I'm not going outside. I'm gonna die, obviously.
Well, I think it's also the way it depicts that heat is really funny too.
It
like
doesn't make
heat
sense.
is like like walking in slow motion. Like it would be like
it's
everything is on
shoes.
fire. The best part is when his lenses pop or whatever. I'm like, what is that?
It's the first thing. The first indication we get is that he drops the axe.
Yeah.
And the axe melts, so his suit can withstand that. But they should have just been like, we think it's 9,000 degrees in there. We think your suit can do it. And that would give you a little bit of hope and add tension to the scene.
Yeah.
As he started dying, you're like, but the suit should be able to withstand it. But the fact that it's literally a margin of 2x hotter than his suit can stand is ridiculous. Yeah. And it just it kills the scene for me. His fucking boots are melting, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get it. Oh, I'm gonna get it."
As if they would be like melting that slowly and not just like absolutely like annihilated.
Iron axe melts in a second in this room.
And that's the thing,
so
like
ridiculous.
everybody in this movie is so smart, including that guy who made all this incredible tech, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring a metal axe outside. Like that's not gonna be. It's not part of the suit. Like what the fuck."
I'm losing my mind. I could not be happier. No one comes up with an inventive solution to any problem.
Yeah.
It's just send the man out to die to accomplish this thing. And I'm losing my mind. And Aaron Eckhart again. We're gonna go to Paris. Is he okay? I think we can get you back.
I forgot about you.
Like we can. I think we can get you back. And it's like, dude, he's melted.
Well, not only that, but
getting him back.
At one point, Aaron Eckhart just silently turns on the impeller and roasts Delroy Lindo. He just fucking frosts him. That's it. My dumb brain was like this. I was like, well, if one suit can withstand 4,000 degrees,
just put him in two.
Just put 2 suits on.
You gotta double bag him.
Just double bag him, right?
That's the kind of fun I wish was in this movie.
I mean, it's not.
Yes,
it's definitely
stupid.
not.
Like that's Armageddon logic, where they would go one suit, but we put him in 2 suits. Like they're doing it
without the charm of Steve Buscemi.
Yes, and then he still dies, but that's because something else goes wrong that they couldn't have possibly foreseen.
But it's also such a weak death, right? Like I think about like Sunshine, right? Yeah. Like Sunshine, like so there's sequences where heat is a factor in Sunshine, and it feels so fucking hot. Like it feels overwhelmingly hot.
We got to do Sunshine.
Yeah, can we do Sunshine?
I don't know about Sunshine.
This is just like Sunshine. He's just like slow, so like he's just like tired, and then even the point where he's like. I can't make it back. I'm gonna lie down right here, and I'm like, isn't that hot? Like,
Well, at this point, all of his nerve endings are burned, probably, and he just can't do anything.
Yeah, and I was kind of hoping for like when he dies, it was gonna be like the cathartic death of like, you know what, I did it, I saved the team, and he looks terrified. He looks so scared. Like he's like, I don't want to be here. Get me out of here, please help me.
Well, he's dead.
Yeah.
And so now we are down to the 3 of us. We've got Zimski, we've got Josh, we've got Bex, and now it's time to arm the bombs. They get all the way to the 5th bomb or whatever, the 4th bomb, whatever it is, and boom, we get hit by something, seismic event or whatever.
She like turns or whatever. She causes a lot of death out there.
Well,
Too.
something happens and one of the bombs gets dislodged. It pins Aaron Eckhart. Zimsky, to his credit, tries a little bit to free him, and he's like, I just can't free this thing, which is kind of leaning against you. Like you think maybe he could just kind of wedge himself against the wall and break this thing off.
Yeah.
It's tough. Anyway, he's like, just go. And Aaron Eckhart, just go, man. It's time for my valiant death. And so, and then Hilary Swank banks right, and the thing pins Zimsky down, and Zimsky's like, okay, well, I guess I have to die now.
Yeah.
My turn
Now
to
I
die?
die?
Now I die?
It's
And he's
my
like, no,
turn.
Josh, just go. And then we get a great scene where he's smoking a dart
Cool.
and still narrating. And he has that one moment that only Stanley Tucci can do where he goes, what the fuck am I doing? And then he goes, and then they blow up the bombs. Does it work, Roger? You bet your fucking sweet
I don't
ass it
remember.
does.
I truly don't remember.
You bet your
If
ass
you
it
told me
does.
that they didn't work and then they had to do something else,
The
I would
last
believe
quarter
you.
of this
Well,
movie is
you
so
missed-
like glazed over.
Oh, well, that was the
Okay.
whole point, right? Is that at one point, Zimsky's like, oh shit, it won't work. You have to do twice the amount. Oh, that's right. That's right. We do have one
You
more
need
beat
to
of
pull
this
the
movie.
rods. You need to pull the rods, which are the things that power the whole thing. And so
The things that
there's
power
a scene
the
where he just gets his hand hot and he just throws. They
yes.
don't show what he does with the rods. He just like pulls the rods and he goes like, "Here, there's
And they
more."
don't really-
rods."
they don't show his hands.
He sticks him next to the nuke because it's got uranium in it. It's got a uranium core. But you would think like the second you pull that out, when you like if you pull the battery out of a car, like it just doesn't work anymore, right?
It does. That
I guess it would.
happens
I guess
in
it would.
this.
I guess it
Yeah,
would.
because she's like, "What's going on?" She doesn't know why she lost power. To
Oh,
the
right,
ship.
she
And
loses
then
all
he
that
just
stuff.
shows up and he's like, "I tried to ask you if it was okay to sacrifice your life, but the comms were broken. I'm sorry that I made the choice to sacrifice us." And she's like, "It's fine. It's okay."
Yeah.
And then they basically are like, "Well, that's that."
Yeah. But he has his hands burned, so he does this the whole time.
Yeah, and then they hug, and he kind of does the,
Right.
the hover hand, but for
It's
real.
so weird. At one point, so the bombs go off, and then they kiss for a second. I think at one
No,
point
that's
they.
later.
The bombs start to go off, but at the same time, he remembers that, oh, wait, we can just run this on power from heat.
That's right. And so I love this
Which
scene.
is like,
First off-
but it's like, okay, that's always been a thing. You can just run it on heat.
Well, he says, "What can you do if I can get you like 5% energy for a second? Could you steer us out of here?" Right? And she goes, "Yeah." So he realizes, hey, there's a shit ton of heat still in that crawl space and like the core of where the engine is. And I love this for two reasons. One, I'm a sucker for overly big cables.
Mm.
And two,
It's very
this
specific.
seems like the kind of operation that would take longer than 5 minutes. It seems like when you look at how they're welding it to the side of the core to convert the heat into electromagnetic energy or whatever it is, that's the kind of shit you get in a montage where it's like over 3 days we did this, but they do it
Oh,
just like that.
time breaks from this point on in the movie. Time completely falls away.
We're
It doesn't
in
make
it.
any sense.
We're in the core of the Earth that you have to imagine is, I guess, the size of Mars. So a nuclear blast is coming toward him or whatever. We're in this ship that can, I guess, withstand a nuclear blast because it can withstand the pressure of being the core. Anyway, they get a little bit of this is, and now again, this might be the only other flaw of this movie.
Okay.
They don't have power, so they can't power the laser.
Yeah.
So the writers, you can see at this point, go, how do we get them out of the core?
Mhm.
We got them in the core, but because they have no power, now we can't burrow back through. What do they find, Joey? You sweet, innocent person. You don't understand
I
screenwriting
don't,
101.
not even a little
They
bit.
find some sort of seismic river, a tectonic plate that just runs all the
Oh.
way from the core all the way back up, so they don't have to weld their way back through the core. They just ride the lightning all the way back
Oh,
up
that
into
makes
that.
sense.
But it requires her very precise piloting.
Yeah.
Which is what leads to my favorite moment in this whole film, where it's the two of them, because they're I think they said they came down at around 60 knots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Took them like 36 hours, but then it launches them back out at like 200 knots because of the explosion.
Right.
And so he's like, we're gonna be back in half the time, and it's her
White knuckling it.
or white knuckling it through this river, and it just shows the X-ray, and it's like fades back. 16 hours later,
Yeah.
she's still doing this.
You want
She's
to talk
still
about
doing this.
you want to talk about writing yourself into a corner? Someone's like, "Hey, we got to end this movie, so we just got to kind of truncate time here for 16 hours of time."
She piloted that ship for 20 hours straight because it's 16 hours and 4 hours.
Yeah.
I know.
Back to back.
But because then it cuts again. It goes 4 hours later, and I'm like, number one, why? Who cares? No one's timing you.
Right.
If you had said, "Oh, we're moving way faster now," and now we got out way faster, that's tons of movies end with a chase scene.
Sure.
The way out is way faster than the way in. Totally reasonable. But the fact that they were like, "Hold on, we want to make sure people know 16
science
hours have passed."
has to be
The
right.
idea of her and him just like standing there as she's driving.
16 hours.
It's like Nick trying to get down to LA,
Just whipping it.
ripping and rip it the whole time. They pop out, land at the bottom, and then it goes another. It's another time pass, and
Yeah.
it's like 4 hours later.
20
Because
hours.
we have to do one more beat here where they're like, we've saved the world, but no one can find us. Because we're in a ship. We're only 200 feet below the ocean, before the surface of the ocean, but we might as well be 2,000 feet because we're in a ship that has a sonar signature of a rock. Because this thing looks like a turd. It's a big old little turd. And so they're like, well, this sucks. What are we gonna do? And he's like, harmonic resonance. Remember that thing we set up from the whales, Joey? And then nobody
How could I
remembers
forget
that.
about the whales.
Nobody knows this except for some reason. Rat knows this information
DJ Whales.
because maybe he was paying attention to that one little moment where the
Yeah.
whales were singing to them. But correct me if I'm wrong, and we'd have to go back and watch this.
Yeah. We
I
have the
don't
technology.
think. Maybe I assume maybe she was on comms when she said, "Hey, the whales we're singing to them." But anyway, he equates whales with, "Hey, they must be circling the ship," and so they find them, and then I think they kiss now. They're saved.
They're also DJ Qualls and the General are also on this ship that's in Hawaii.
Because why wouldn't you take the hacker?
And they've been searching. The thing is, I'm like, what? How did they reach this place? Why are these people here?
Well, they've had 48 hours to get there.
Math.
Well, we know exactly how many hours they've had, Nick, and it's only been 16 to
Plus 4.
20 hours.
That's fair. It's less likely. It's more likely to me that Richard Jenkins would be able to get to an aircraft carrier. It makes zero sense why he would bring this hacker with him.
Yeah.
It makes zero sense. This kid has nothing that could actually contribute to this. He doesn't understand fucking radar. Anyway, I digress. He figures it out, and off we go. We make it. The core. The world has been saved. Hilary Swank and Aaron Eckhart have the world's most awkward kiss at some point here, where it's like I imagine you accidentally kiss your brother or your sister, and you're like, why does your breath smell like stale Cheetos? And then we are done.
No, we're not done.
I don't know.
We're not done.
But
Oh,
think we're
right.
done.
I forgot.
You
he
think
was
we're
like,
done.
He was like, it's a shame, James. It's a shame that no one's going to know what we did. All the sacrifices that people made, unless someone were to leak it.
Or hack the planet.
I was like, this is my favorite part too, because he's like, maybe if we can leak it. And so they have Rat in an internet cafe called
So cool.
What was it? Something Cafe. It's got a
Cyber?
great name
Yeah.
on it.
Rat
Cy-
Cafe,
Cyber
probably.
Cafe or whatever. He takes his disc called Kung Fu, which has all the information. He drags and drops all the files, which have a photograph of each person who died
In the thumbnail.
into this thing, and then hacks everyone's computer in the Cyber Cafe with RatNet,
Yeah.
Right,
which is. But I'm like, you're not leaking it anymore.
No.
We know it's you.
It's
Rat.
you, Rat.
Yeah. We know who's responsible for this. Can you imagine if someone were to do that today? If there was some strange
We
weather
can't-
stuff that happened, and then all of a sudden someone started tweeting that out, like, "Hey, this is what really happened." A team of scientists went on a mission to the core to restart the Earth. No one in their right fucking mind would believe
But
that.
he didn't even leak it. He just hacked into everyone's computers and put the files on it, which is even worse.
Well, he gave them the information so that it couldn't be taken off. Like you
Yeah.
have to imagine he just put it on like Reddit. But it's the
I mean,
equivalent of like I put it on Reddit. I
everyone
put
in
it
the
on Twitter.
cyber cafes,
has it on their screen.
yeah, their screens turn up and it's just they're on the RatNet.
Oh yeah, you gotta make sure they see it.
yeah.
That's how you leak something.
But imagine that, Nick.
You don't-
You're just
But
working
why
one day.
wouldn't you just put the pictures and stuff on their screens instead of your like weird hack?
Nah, he wanted the
Rat.
whole OS. You know what I mean?
Joey,
He's trying to get
I'm
everyone
sorry.
on Linux.
I'm so sorry, Joey, and I'm we like to keep it cordial here, but this is gonna sound kind of mean. Okay, are we hacking Daly City? Or are we hacking the fucking planet?
That's true.
You see what I'm saying here? Hack the planet, Roger.
I think they're hacking just a cyber
I think they were at the
cafe.
cat cafe he was in Amsterdam, wherever he was.
I just want to
And
shout
he
out
says
the
my kung
bucket
fu
hat
is
that he's
strong.
wearing
Oh,
in this.
it's
It's
terrible.
like crocheted.
It's
It's
so
like, what are you doing?
and the sunglasses and everything. I'm just like,
And you're like-
please let me never go back to the early 2000s.
This is 2000s, but undercover.
Just
Like, I don't want
terrible.
anyone to know who I
Yeah,
am.
the hot pocket.
You know what's
too.
even sadder about this? It reminds me of the scene from I want to say the first Mission Impossible movie, which was actually a decent movie, where Ethan Hunt and Luther meet at the end of and they're at a cafe, and it's just this really cool, nice scene between these two guys that have great chemistry, and he's like, and he gets his ability to go back to the CIA, and Ethan Hunt's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I have a brand new life ahead of me. That was a great scene. This one, you're like, take that fucking bucket hat off and burn it in a trash can with a rat, just to make sure nobody goes back to it.
Pretty sick.
I digress. Ladies and gentlemen,
Back.
that is the core.
Great end credits theme as well. That can only exist in that year.
What was the end credits?
I don't know, but when you listen to it, you're like, wow, this is exactly this is exactly from 2003, 100% from 2003.
So this is the part where we rank things.
Oh
I
shit.
don't have the rankings from the last Armageddon because I think Nick does.
I
It's just
think
Twister 1, Twister 2.
in Armageddon.
Oh, yeah, in
That's
Armageddon.
pretty much it. So I think we
But
could.
I don't think we ranked Armageddon against
No,
the
we haven't.
Twisters.
we did not.
No,
So the
we
list
didn't.
as it stands right now
It's
is
Twister.
number 1, Twister. Number 2, Twisters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we want? Let's start with Armageddon. Now I know it's hard
Armag-
because we've all only seen this movie
That's
50
crazy.
times. Have you seen? You're on the last one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Where do we want to
it's
rank
easy.
Armageddon against Twister and Twisters?
This is tough.
This is easy.
Number 1.
I don't think it's that hard
number
either.
1 for me.
Oh, really?
I think
Really?
James
Yeah,
nailed it.
Yeah.
No way.
No,
I
y'all.
love
No
Twister.
No fucking way, y'all.
Twister's
Let's-
great, but I would put on Armageddon before putting on
Yes,
Twister
100%.
See, I feel the opposite. I think I would put on Twister before Armageddon.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
because it's shorter, maybe.
Armageddon?
No, Twister.
Oh,
I
Twister
think there's
shorter,
just.
yeah. No.
I think it's like quicker, and like I don't know.
I didn't really
Armageddon's
like
perfect.
Armageddon, so like I was on there. I was just like, yeah, it's fine. But I understand it more now after watching this because this is bad. Like this is
Yeah.
really bad, and I was like conflating a lot of things. I respect Armageddon now, 2024. 6 months removed. But I think Twister is a masterpiece. So that's number one.
Well,
for
We
me.
got to put it to the vote. Let's put it to a vote.
Who thinks that Armageddon should be number 1?
That's 3 to
Roger
2.
and I.
Fuck.
3 to
He's gonna
2.
be pissed.
Because to
Someone
me,
text
ladies and
Tim and
gentlemen,
ask.
Shit.
I'll tell you what Twister's
This
missing.
is one of those things where it's like, has Tim ever seen Armageddon?
No.
It's very possible that he hasn't.
No, and he does. Nor would he care about this list as it stands.
The
The
sanctity
kids
of
are
the
on their
list.
own on this one.
I feel like Tim would pick Armageddon because of his love of Fast and Furious, and Armageddon is essentially a
Fast and Furious in
spiritual-
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
So the list as it stands right now is Armageddon number
Well, we
1.
still have to rank the core.
We're gonna get there. Twister
I wonder where it's gonna be.
number
Uh-huh.
2, and Twisters
Number 3.
number 3. Now we also have to do Ragu Bagu,
Yes.
Mhm.
or as I like to call it, the disastrous Ragu Bagu. I have nothing. I have
Okay.
nothing on that one. Roger, hit the song.
Bagu. Bagu.
Have you not watched anything?
No, I've never seen this. I've never seen this.
Ragu.
Dun, 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 dun.
Bagu. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bad Guys Talk Bad Guys. You know we're going to table that because
Never
we're going to
ranked-
rank the movies
I
first,
was like,
and then
we
we're
never
going to
ranked the core.
let's rank the core first. Let's rank the
I
core.
don't even
All
think
right.
like we really need to. It seems like a formality that it's going to
Where do we
want
want to put the core on this list?
It's number 4.
It's the last one.
Yeah,
Quarter
absolutely.
to the 4.
Oh
I would argue.
No.
Mm.
no.
No, I can't. I can't argue. This movie is. It's
I
not.
want to hear.
a great-
I want to hear. No, Nick. I want to hear
Try.
the argue.
I would argue that this is a better overall, like beat for beat. No, I can't. I can't
Okay.
argue
Oh,
it. I was
can I
gonna
say
say.
this, Nick?
I was gonna say
I'll say
disaster movie,
something.
but yeah, go ahead.
I am more happy that the core exists than Twisters.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
It's
actually.
I'll say it this at the very least, it's a slightly, marginally more unique disaster movie than Twisters because
It's an
of
attempt.
how
Yeah.
stupid
Is it?
and absurd.
Twisters,
I mean,
Twisters did not feel like an attempt. It feels like a cash grab
an
franchise
artifact.
thing.
yeah.
IP loving.
Whereas this was a cash
but
grab
yeah, continue.
because of Armageddon.
Yeah, this feels like analogous to Twisters, but just for a different type of disaster movie,
Fair.
circa
It's
the
fair,
late 90s, early 2000s.
but I cannot, in any good conscience, put this over anything
No,
that has come out.
I
It
couldn't
is.
either.
I can't do it, unfortunately. So that'll go to number 4. So now I would like to rank the disasters real quick.
Oh, we're gonna rank the disaster.
Yeah, because
Well, there's
there's
the
no
F5.
there's no bad
There's
guys.
the F5.
So we're gonna rank.
from
Are you taking notes on
Twister.
this?
I am taking notes.
Okay, so we got the F5 from Twister. We got the
But we-
EF5.
But we also kind of ranked those as Ragu Bagu. The
Yeah,
Yeah, those
disasters
are our
are
Ragu Bagus.
because
Okay.
right now the Ragu Bagu as it stands is F5 and Carrie Elwes. And then number 2 is Marshall Riggs, Henry Cantville, Fire Tornado, Kate. She killed her friends.
I love that. It's good.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So I
Did kill her
think
friends.
that the Ragu,
So then we'd have
the disasters are
Asteroid from Armageddon.
which
Yes. Which I don't think there's any other antagonists in Armageddon, right? Because there's no one like that.
Buscemi goes space mad.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so the
Yeah.
asteroid and
Space madness.
Buscemi's crazy eyes.
Space
We'll just put it that
I
way.
would say anybody who doubted the drillers.
Yeah.
But
the
the haters.
That's the thing. Even
haters.
Billy Bob Thornton is like he's like an advocate for them.
Yeah.
Like he's skeptical, but he's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
like I don't
and,
believe you can do it.
like even the president's like, I hope this works. Like you guys have my full faith, and he's like, I hate to have to do
Yeah.
this, but we have to do this thing.
Maybe it's just the asteroid. Maybe it's just the big
Yeah,
asteroid.
maybe
in space.
well,
and
yeah,
the
pretty
asteroid
space
does feel like scary and ominous. It makes all those noises. I feel like it's a very good
Yeah, it's a good
I'd
one.
say
v
bad
one.
guy.
Maybe animal cracker crumbs in your belly button. That would
Oh
be
right,
That's
yeah,
a
yeah,
tough
the
one.
love scene.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
never
Okay.
getting those out. Those are gonna stay in there for a while. I would agree. I would think this is number 1 for me, and and just because of the what's up?
No, should we also get the core? What's the bad
We're
guy? in
gonna rank
core?
the. Oh, okay. Well, the course is gonna be number 4.
Destiny.
the
No, but
asteroid.
what is
Project
it?
Destiny.
What is okay?
Oh,
Project
it's
Destiny.
Dr. Zimski, and General Purcell, and Project Destiny was
but
the
not
bad
the
guy.
core. Like, why
Well,
wasn't
the-
the core stronger? Like, why did it stop immediately? You know what I mean? What do
I
you
mean,
think about
it's
that?
just a,
Is it
it's just a
global warming?
wussy core.
No,
It
they
could
don't.
be just the. It could be
The ozone
the
layer.
trials and tribulations of the center of the Earth. Parentheses destiny.
I'll give you that.
Cause
Yeah, all
right,
of that.
like,
I got it.
Maybe that.
Trials and tribulations.
So what all
heat. Could heat be the enemy?
birds, maybe pacemakers,
Heat and pressure.
all the
Birds.
pacemakers.
all the pacemakers.
We blame the pacemakers.
Pacemakers.
So what I'll say is I would vote the asteroid from Armageddon as number 1 because I like the visuals of it. I think it lends itself more to be sort of a monstrous foe.
sounds scary.
It sounds scary as shit, and we have those wonderful sequences where it's like rocketing in the earth, it's like little tiny in the distance. And you're like, to me, that always gave me
Feels like it fights back.
it feels like impending
So
doom.
did the
Yeah.
Twister. So did the F5.
Yeah, but the F5
has
only comes up at the end of the movie.
no multiple times. Well,
No,
I mean,
that's
well,
an F1, that's
fuck.
an F2, that's an F3. We got
Yeah, but
all the
the-
twisters.
So it's just that one twister. I can't talk about the
Yeah.
other twisters.
No, it's just the one.
the list is
Okay,
the
well,
list.
fuck. God damn
The
it.
list
Okay,
is the
yeah.
You
list.
can talk about Carrie Elwes though.
Yeah, but yeah, whatever.
Jonas.
Put the asteroid number 1. I'm not
All right.
happy about it.
So then where do we want to put the Earth's core?
the trials
and
and
Project,
tribulations
yeah.
of the center of the core. Parentheses. Birds. Pacemakers. Destiny.
I'm gonna say number 3.
I would
Oh,
argue
Fire
number 3.
tornado.
I would argue
Fire
number 3.
tornado puts itself out.
Kind of lame tornado
It's not
puts
yeah,
itself out.
and it didn't really have
Yeah.
too much destruction.
Well, my thing is, and I think, we hit the nail on the head when we talked about sort of the first F5 has that sort of like boss feel to it, where it does sort of feel like it's hunting Helen Hunt down. It feels like they made it into a little bit more of a monster. And in this one, the tornadoes just kind of feel like tornadoes in Twisters. It doesn't feel like it's actually like personified in any way, shape, or form.
Well, that's kind of how I feel about the core, where it's like it's not actually doing anything. It's just something that they
Some would
have to
argue it's
deal
doing
with.
nothing. That's the problem.
It's just something that they have to deal with. I don't necessarily see it as an enemy.
That's fair, because there really is. I mean, again, another criticism y'all had in this at the beginning of this was there's no real disasters that happen in this. We see smaller disasters, but we don't see whatever the impending doom is.
Mm-hmm.
We never really get a sense of the Earth. Like, you don't have the actual physical personification of a giant fucking asteroid that you see rocketing toward the Earth the entire time.
I do think that you could get me to put it above Twisters if we include the killer birds because they were scary. We have the birds. I think we do.
They
have
were
the
lost.
birds
Birds in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they still they made one bird managed to shatter that giant window all by itself. I don't know. It feels like
I would be fine with just like on principle putting it at number 3
Okay.
because I don't like twisters. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So
Wow. Look at that.
I'd feel that
are we
way.
putting it at number 3? Is that the consensus?
Put it at number 3. And that is Ragu Bagu.
That is Ragu Bagu.
Easy.
Ragu
Easy.
Doo-doo.
I will go ahead and keep this for the next time we return to this. The next time Tim goes on.
When I
some
make you
sort of
guys watch
vacation.
the day after tomorrow.
Or sunshine.
No, no.
Sunshine's
Now
a
we're
legit
picking
good
it.
movie.
We are changing the way we're picking
Yeah.
these movies.
Toss up
Um,
Apollo 13 again.
And
which I know is
Sunshine.
not,
I still
Sunshine,
really
yes,
want to
of
watch
course.
Volcano, Dante's Peak. We got a lot of good options. Thank you so much for joining us. Next week, we will be back with Tim and Andy, and we'll be watching Beetlejuice, which is very exciting because I've actually never seen that. So I'm excited to do it. Roger, thank you so much for joining us. Nick, thank you so much for being here and for doing the plot. James and Elise, wonderful to have you as always.
Thanks for having us.
And they're doing a live show. You guys are doing a live show.
We are doing a live show, yes, September 15th at Dynasty Typewriter in Los Angeles. You can get tickets at dynastytypewriter.com or you follow me on Instagram, james.willems. I have a link in my profile. But here's the thing. The being there tickets are going really, really fast, and that's great, but we're going to live stream the whole thing. You can get live stream tickets
That's cool.
for a little bit cheaper, so that way if you're watching anywhere, you can watch along, and it's going to be a blast. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Excited to watch. This will be so fun. Everyone, thank you so much for hanging out and watching. We will see you next week. Do we have a
For Beetlejuice.
tagline
Oh,
for this?
until next time, stay frosty.
Wow.